Thankfully, Lingjun was probably in a good mood from being reunited with his daughter, so he invited his disciples and some higher-ups from the arbitration council. Nearly all of the well-known members of Tianshui City also attended as well. Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng naturally attended. Several socialites were gathered together and brimmed with stunned admiration as they examined the sumptuous setting of the venue and the long line of prestigious guests. Wow, what an enormous procession! Right? It's just a normal party, but it's more extravagant than Qin Shiyuan's coming-of-age ceremony back then. After all, she's the daughter of Sir President. Even though there's just a single word difference between president and vice president, the differences are mammoth, alright? Should tone it down. Don't let Qin Shiyuan overhear you. Discussions similar to this hadn't ceased since yesterday night, so how could Qin Shiyuan be ignorant to thoughts like this? However, due to father's instructions, she repressed herself from erupting. She seriously couldn't understand how President Yi suddenly gained a daughter, especially one so similar looking to worryless Nya. What was more coincidental was that Yunma also seemed to have taken a fancy to see Yihan. Qin Shiyuan secretly sent people to investigate her, and there didn't seem to be any flaws regarding Yunma's identity. She was indeed President Yi's daughter, but Qin Shiyuan still felt like something was off about it. Was there some issue there? Yin Heng's attitude today regained its previous gentleness and consideration. He accompanied her the entire time, and took care of her attentively. Yuan, what did Vice President Qin say about me entering the arbitration council? Don't worry. I've already mentioned it to father, and there won't be any problems. There happens to be an opening for a director position, and requires someone suitable to take it. Joy took over Yin Heng's face. Seriously? That's great. This way, I can do my dues for Vice President Qin and help him more by his side. As for Yi Wanwan, she was about to break down because of Yi Lingjun. She had finally waited until today's meetings concluded, and was prepared to launch her plan to find Si Yihan. However, to her surprise, Yi Lingjun planned some kind of party and invited a bunch of people, dragging her and introducing her to every single person. Judging from his behavior, he wanted nothing more than to brag and show to everyone that he had a daughter. Yi Wanwan was so exhausted she didn't want to tread another step. Say, master. Yi Lingjuan's expression dropped instantly. What did you call me? Yi Wanwan could only correct herself. Sir father. I have business to take care of, so can I leave now? Yi Lingjun rolled his eyes at her. You're the main star today, so how could you leave now? Anyway, what business could you possibly have? To find my man, of course. I was planning to ask him out on a date tonight, but you ruined all my plans. Yi Wanwan said righteously. Yi Lingjuan's expression darkened. What do you want to seek him out for, huh? You want to seek him out, but he doesn't care about you, let alone go on a date with you. I also invited that guy to tonight's party, but he's the one who didn't want to come. He must not like you, so you should stop chasing after him, or else you're going to end up like Qin Shiyuan. I can't lose face. Yi Wanwan peered at him from the corner of her eyes. Are you kidding me, Dad? Forget about me switching disguises, but even if I stuffed myself into a turtle shell, if I wanted to seduce him, I could absolutely seduce him. Yi Lingjun had nothing but disdain on his face, his disbelief clear as day. I don't think so. He didn't want to come despite me personally inviting him, so he probably doesn't want to be connected to you in any way or fashion. Yi Wanwan was rendered speechless by Yi Lingjun, her feelings complicated. From worryless Nye's viewpoint, she should be happy that Si Yihan didn't come. However, from Yi Yunma's viewpoint, she was a bit angry. Freaking. Who cared who she was? She just had to become connected to him. Yi Wanwan occasionally glanced at the entrance but still didn't see Si Yihan's figure. However, the people hitting on her came one wave after another. In some nearby corner, the director, who brought his son to gain favor with Yi Wanwan last time but had his son run off on him, was also in attendance today. Su Yang, if you dare to run away again today like last time, you don't want to know how I'll punish you. Dad, could it be that you brought me back here simply to make me do this kind of thing? To seduce and curry favor with a woman? The youth was infuriated, his eyes scarlet. The director snorted. Why else? Your martial arts skills are the same as a crippled person. Aside from having a decent-looking face, what use are you to the Su family? Dad. The youth was incredulous. If you dare to be disobedient again this time, pack your bags and leave the Su family. The director handed a room card to him. I've arranged everything already, so immediately get your ass in this room. As long as you can make Missy happy, I'll consider the matter of bringing your mother back to the independent state. The youth tightly clenched the room card, his eyes gradually becoming resigned. Yi Wanwan's attention was wholeheartedly focused on the entrance, so she was ignorant to the events occurring in the dark. It was halfway through the party, and the one person who should have come still wasn't here. Yi Wanwan lost all patience and was about to leave since she was selling an apathetic and haughty persona anyway. However, she had just taken a step when she saw a familiar figure appearing at the entrance with Lin Kei and Yu Xiao trailing behind him. Since today's party was more private and less official, Si Yihan was dressed slightly more casually. He was wearing a loose-cut casual outfit with a windbreaker over it. His pale complexion caused his self-restrictive demeanor to lose some of its harshness and look a little more harmless. It was harder for people to look away. Damn. He finally came. Yi Wanwan wasted half a night waiting, so she was rather resentful. Director Si, welcome. Yi Lingjun walked over and greeted him with a wine glass in hand. He said with a concerned tone, if you truly felt unwell, you didn't need to come. As soon as Si Yihan came, his daughter had no time to pay attention to him, her dad. Si Yihan politely said, it was just some mild illness. How could I pass on the president's invitation? Furthermore, I would like to discuss the proposed law from last time with you in detail. Yi Wanwan's expression darkened when she heard this from nearby. Don't tell me he came here despite not feeling well purely because of Yi Lingjun? Yi Lingjun glanced at Yi Wanwan, clearly rejoicing in her misfortune. He passionately received Si Yihan. Great, we'll talk over there. He dragged Si Yihan away immediately. He utterly ignored Yi Wanwan. Medusa walked over and whispered to Yi Wanwan, little junior sister, Si Yihan really seems to be completely uninterested in you. Yi Wanwan. Was she seriously old and unable to lift a backsword anymore? She actually couldn't seduce him. Chapter 23-21 Forceful abduction. Si Yihan's arrival still evoked quite a big wave. After all, there were many members of the arbitration council present, and word of the incident last night had spread. Every guest heard that this haughty and condescending Miss E ignored everyone but solely exchanged a few words with Si Yihan and invited him to dance with her. Everyone was waiting for the next scoop of gossip, but Miss E didn't seem to show any reaction to Si Yihan's arrival and stayed seated where she was, conversing with Medusa without a glance at Si Yihan. In reality, before Yi Wanwan could do anything, Yi Lingjun had hogged Si Yihan all to himself the second Si Yihan arrived. Upon seeing the lack of interaction between Yi Yanmo and Si Yihan, Yin Heng, who had been paying close attention this whole time, finally breathed a sigh of relief. He really did overthink things. Si Yihan's attitude was a big hit to Yi Wanwan, and she was unable to recover from the setback, listlessly sitting in her seat. Medusa cleared her throat before comforting her. Little junior sister, this proves he's devotedly loyal to you, so you should be happy instead. When you recover your identity as worryless Nya, you can go on whatever date you want. Yi Wanwan grumbled, but I want to go on a date with him now. It felt too terrible being able to see him, but unable to touch him. Medusa glanced at Si Yihan and tactfully said, judging from his current attitude, I reckon that's unlikely. Yi Wanwan was wallowing in her dejection when a thought sparked in her mind. Why is it unlikely? Who am I? I'm not worryless Nya right now. I'm the daughter of the Arbitration Council's president right now. Yi Wanwan excitedly turned to Medusa and exclaimed, why am I pursuing him or asking him on a date? Why do I need to go through the trouble of pursuing him? With my current identity and background, I can throw my weight around and abduct him forcefully. Medusa said. Wasn't there something wrong with those words? But after carefully thinking about it, it sounded rather reasonable. After realizing this, Yi Wanwan resurrected to full health and gracefully stood up on her high heels. Tonight, she had applied a slightly smoky look and wore a black evening gown that revealed the beautiful butterfly bones on her back. The straps of her high heels were designed as vines wrapping around her ankles, making her fair skin particularly seductive. She nonchalantly sauntered toward Si Yihan, akin to a black rose under the moon, dangerous and mesmerizing. So pretty. Nearly everyone's gazes were glued to this girl. When Yi Lingjun saw his daughter approaching them, he asked with his eyes, "What are you doing now? He clearly doesn't want to talk to you. He directly rejected you last night." Yi Wanwan ignored Yi Lingjun and stopped in front of Si Yihan. "Director Si, dance with me." Si Yihan, Yi Lingjun, all the observers, it was the same exact words as last night. If it was merely a casual invitation last night, then this second occurrence tonight couldn't be explained away, right? After an unknown amount of time spent in a peculiar silence, Si Yihan slightly looked up at the girl and said, "Missy, apologies, but I am busy today." He actually rejected her again. All the guests were simply incredulous and their eyes simultaneously shot toward Yi Wanwan. Could she seriously tolerate it after being rejected twice in a row? Yi Wanwan's lips curled up in a stunning and bewitching smirk as she slowly leaned down, stopping next to Si Yihan's ear. "Director Si, I'm not asking for your opinion." After saying that, she directly snapped shut the open file in Si Yihan's hand and stuffed it into Yi Lingjun's arms. "Now you aren't busy." She then glared at Yi Lingjun in warning. Yi Lingjun gulped. "Sigh, I'm old and my energy can't keep up. Let's discuss the matter another day." Si Yihan. Currently, the guests nearby might appear to be bustling with conversation, but in reality, every single pair of eyes had drifted toward them. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao were standing fairly close and didn't dare to even breathe too loudly as they watched the pair in a standstill with their swords drawn. Qin Shiyuan was originally suspicious due to Yi Yunma's looks, but became uncertain when she saw Si Yihan's attitude. The more Lin Ke mulled over it, the more dismayed he became. However, he seriously couldn't think of a solution. So he hid to the side and lit a cigarette, spitting out a billow of smoke. The smoke followed the wind and happened to float toward Si Yihan. Yi Wanwan was waiting for Si Yihan's response, but her gaze shot toward Lin Ke like a blade as she said, "The cigarette, snuff it out." Lin Ke was dumbfounded, the cigarette between his lips. "Uh-huh." Yi Wanwan extended her hand to wave away the wisp of smoke in front of Si Yihan before repeating, "Snuff out the cigarette." Lin Ke looked at Yi Wanwan and looked at Si Yihan before finally realizing what she meant. He didn't say anything, but complaints overflowed inside. "Are you for real? Ninth brother is a man, so do you need to fuss over nothing when he's inhaling a little smoke?" Lin Ke resentfully glanced at his ninth brother before obediently putting out his cigarette. Si Yihan naturally saw Lin Ke's resentful gaze, but didn't reveal anything in his expression. His finger lightly tapped against the glass surface of the bar, his unfathomable, starry eyes silently staring at the girl. Yi Wanwan said, "Director Si, this way." She extended her arm toward Si Yihan. Si Yihan glanced at the girl's soft and delicate palm before slowly standing up and enveloping her small hand with his bigger hand. Accompanied by the melodious sound of the violin, the two of them stepped onto the dance floor. On the dance floor, everyone subconsciously stopped their steps and retreated to the side. These two people were seriously too dazzling. Their motions and steps as they danced clearly appeared nonchalant, but they matched so well that they resembled a passionately in love couple. As everyone was amazed over this, they reflexively peered at Qin Shiyuan and Yin Heng. People were originally amazed over this golden couple. Now, when they were compared to the couple on the dance floor, they became nothing. TSK impressive. As expected, it's eldest young master Si who's more impressive. I admit defeat. So in other words, Qin Shiyuan was really lying, right? Say, do you think eldest miss got together with Yin Heng because she was rejected and was shamed into anger? Most likely. Where does Yin Heng have the capability? He was nothing but a manager after being in the Yin family for so many years. With that smidge of abilities he has, he can only pick up what Si Yihan doesn't want. As the words around them turned more and more unpleasant, the more Qin Shiyuan found Yin Heng found displeasing. She shoved him away and stomped away angrily in her high heels. She originally got together with Yin Heng to make Si Yihan regret it and humiliate him. Who would have expected the president's daughter to take a fancy to him and cause her to turn into a joke? Eun Hung staggered from the push, but his eyes remained intently glued to the couple on the dance floor, his expression abnormally dark. How great an honor it was to obtain the favor of Vice President Chin's daughter. But now all the honor had turned into humiliation, and he became a clown from the comparison. On the dance floor, Si Yihan had one hand laid over the girl's hand while his other hand was around her waist, but he didn't actually touch her. He was a rather proper gentleman. Yi Wanwan stared at a certain someone's aloof and distant chin. She ground her teeth before saying with a fake smile, "Director C is such a true gentleman." "You're overpraising me, Miss E," Si Yihan replied. Yi Wanwan pointedly said, "I heard Director C has a fiancé. Someone who can make Director C safeguard his purity this closely. She must be a perfect woman, right?" Si Yihan glanced at her. "It happens to be the opposite." Yi Wanwan was startled. "The opposite? What does he mean?" Si Yihan actually said I'm not perfect? Si Yihan responded, "She isn't perfect. She's impulsive, easy to angry, terrible when drunk, unreasonable, likes to get into trouble, likes to get jealous a lot, and likes to deceive people. She especially likes to agree overtly but oppose people in secret." Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan continued, "When she promises me something on the surface, she never obediently adheres to it in secret, and will always act outside my estimates and expectations." Yi Wanwan, "Every day I spend with her, it feels like an adventure." After listening to Si Yihan trash talk and bring up a bunch of her flaws, Yi Wanwan nearly couldn't keep her expression in check anymore, and her tone darkened. "Is that so? Since your fiancée is so awful, what do you like about her?" Si Yihan's gaze crashed into the girl's dazzlingly starry eyes. "Missy, I thought I explained myself clearly just now." Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan dazedly froze in her spot, unable to react for an eternity. He explained himself clearly just now? What did he explain? He was clearly trash-talking her. So what Si Yihan meant was, everything he said just now was what he liked about her? Si Yihan said, "Because that person is her. In my eyes, her good qualities are in the thousands." Fuck. Yi Wanwan's heart started leaping madly. Those words were more touching than fiercely praising her to be a goddess who was visiting the mortal realm. Freak. What the heck was going on with Si Yihan? Back then, his emotional intelligence was clearly in the negative, but now he had turned over an entirely new leaf. She came here to seduce him today, but got seduced instead without warning. The song concluded and thunderous clapping drowned the room. "Missy, you dance too well." That's right, that's right. You're a goddess who descended to this world." Read more chapters at List Novel. Missy, business matters plague me, so please excuse me. Yi Wanwan took a glass of red wine from a nearby server's tray and gently swirled it. "I'll escort you." Si Yihan was expressionless. "No need." Yi Wanwan continued to swirl her glass. "TSK, he managed to escape yesterday. Does he think he can still escape today?" The next second, Yi Wanwan nonchalantly twisted her wrist, and over half of the glass was spilled onto Si Yihan's clothes. "Ninth brother." Lin Ke jolted in fright. "Ninth brother, are you all right?" Si Yihan furrowed his brows and raised his hand. "I'm fine. I'm truly sorry." Although Yi Wanwan said that, there wasn't a trace of apologeticness on her face. She ordered a nearby server, "Prepare a clean outfit and send it to my room." The server immediately responded, "Yes." Yi Wanwan turned to Si Yihan. "Director C, you can come upstairs with me and change your clothes first before leaving." Lin Ke helplessly watched this scene, and felt like a flame was burning underneath him from the anxiety. Fuck. This was a real-life female hegemon. How could she? Didn't she see that ninth brother was unwilling? Plus, she clearly splashed that red wine on purpose. Put nicely, ninth brother would be following her to change his clothes, but who knew what she wanted to do? This was basically the saying, Sima Zhao's trick is so obvious that everyone knows. Even Yi Lingjun almost couldn't keep watching anymore. "Good daughter, could you be any more obvious?" However, Yi Wanwan naturally ignored him. This method might be shameless, but it was very useful. It was both logical and reasonable, so Si Yihan couldn't find a good reason to reject it. And so, Yi Wanwan openly made Si Yihan follow her upstairs to her room. Her position was too disadvantageous tonight. She must gain the upper hand this round. In the back, Lin Ke ran around in circles in distress but was powerless. He shook Yu Xiao despairingly. This is a hoax. A blatant hoax. Yu Xiao cleared his throat. Lower your voice. Don't overreact. I think Miss E just wants to become friends with Sir. Plus, I still maintain my initial viewpoint, and there isn't anything bad about this. Furthermore, Miss E has a much higher position than Qin Shiyuan. If we obtain Miss Yi's assistance, what we want to accomplish will become much simpler. Lin Ke glared at him instantly. Your initial viewpoint? What is your initial viewpoint, huh? Have ninth brother used the beauty trap? Yu Xiao retorted. Why do you have to put it so badly? He just has to use a tiny bit. I dare you to repeat that in front of that demoness, worryless Nya. Thankfully, the previous Qin Shiyuan didn't get her way, but Yunma is different. This woman is too scary. Even ninth master can't fend her off. If this continues, I'm afraid ninth master really can't protect his purity. At that time, it's not just a problem of a beauty trap. You'll have to start calculating how many times that demoness will hack you with her backsword. Yu Xiao, his math was bad. It'd be better if he didn't calculate it. On the way there, Yi Wanwan kept to herself and maintained her haughty persona, as she expressionlessly led Si Yihan to her room. The party was held at Tianshui City's biggest hotel. Yi Lingjun had reserved the whole place, and Yi Wanwan's room was the presidential suite on the hotel's top floor. Ding! The elevator chimed and the duo reached the top floor. This way. Yi Wanwan walked ahead and pulled out a door card from her purse and opened the room door. It seemed like a maid had lit some essential oil inside the room, so there was a very strong scent. The aroma wasn't bad smelling. It was just so intense that it made people uncomfortable. I already had people prepare some clothes beforehand, so you can change into them first, Director C. Yi Wanwan then added intentionally. If you don't find it troublesome, he will have to strip anyway. Si Yihan acted like he didn't understand Yi Wanwan's underlying meaning. Thank you, Missy. Then he picked up the clothes sitting on the sofa and headed toward the inner room. Why did he go that far to change his clothes? This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh light novel. Yi Wanwan felt pitiful and stretched her neck to secretly peek inside. Her mind surreptitiously running through the best method of attacking later. However, after waiting for an eternity, there still weren't any movements from Si Yihan. What's happening? Does it take that long to change his clothes? Why isn't he done yet? In her puzzlement, Yi Wanwan stood up and walked inside. She wasn't trying to intentionally sneak a peek or anything. She was just worried about him. Director C. When Yi Wanwan reached the door to the inner room, she saw that Si Yihan hadn't entered at all, and had maintained his position of opening the door. His icy gaze was staring at something inside the room, a chilling aura emanating from his entire person. Yi Wanwan had no idea what happened, so she hastily walked over to see what was inside the room. Yi Wanwan had just reached the door and didn't have time to clearly see what was happening inside before Si Yihan took off his black jacket extremely fast, and tossed it toward the bed inside the room, covering something up. Then, as though Si Yihan felt like it wasn't enough, he severely ordered her, "Close your eyes." Yi Wanwan was about to look at the bed, but reflexively closed her eyes obediently. Shit. Just what kind of situation was this? Why was Si Yihan's expression so awful? What could be on the bed that would anger Si Yihan to this extent? It couldn't be a naked man, right? Dead silence invaded the air, and she could only hear Si Yihan's heavy breathing from his rage. Not only were Yi Wanwan's eyes closed, but she also had no idea what was going on. It felt truly torturous. At this moment, rustling noises were heard from the bed. Later, a hoarse and panicked voice drifted to her ears. Missy shit. Why was there another man's voice inside the room? Yi Wanwan couldn't resist it anymore, and opened her eyes in a flash, only to see. Fuck. There really was a man on the bed. And she'd seen this man before. It was the lamb-like youth whom a director introduced to her last time. She felt like this dad had nefarious intentions and might want to sell his son for glory. She never expected him to be so efficient and move so quickly. He packed the youth up and sent him to her bed the very next day. Missy, I. The youth lay on the bed, the upper half of his body completely naked and half covered by the jacket Si Yihan threw at him. His face was flushed and he couldn't say anything. He never expected Yi Yunma to not come alone, and to also bring a man here. In addition, this man was Director Si. Yi Wanwan stared at the man on the bed and cautiously glanced at Si Yihan next to her. This situation simply made her head swell. Fuck. She was absolutely screwed over badly. Your father sent you here? Yi Wanwan harshly asked with a cold expression, trying her hardest to draw the line between them. Baby, you mustn't misunderstand me. I didn't know anything. The youth was trembling slightly and was going to cower back, but thought of something. He mustered his courage, tossed away the jacket over him, and threw himself in front of Yi Wanwan. Missy, I beg you, don't kick me away. I'll do anything you want me to. Yi Wanwan narrowly dodged the youth's touch, her expression terrible. Get out. The youth understood very well that he'd be doomed if he was kicked out by Yi Wanwan like this, so he could only continue to plead. Miss E, I beg you don't kick me out. At least, you don't dislike me, right? You said. I had a lot of character. Si Yihan. Yi Wanwan felt like she just got fucked over. Shit. It was just an offhanded remark. She didn't mean anything else. Yi Wanwan reflexively turned, and was about to say something to Si Yihan. However, Si Yihan had languidly fixed his sleeves and turned around already. Since Miss E is busy, I won't disturb you. The next second, without waiting for Yi Wanwan's explanation, the hotel room door was slammed shut with a bang. You. Yi Wanwan stared at the youth, angered to the point of not knowing what to say. Yet this youth was probably a victim too. Get dressed. Yi Wanwan could only throw these words behind her before rushing to chase after Si Yihan. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao couldn't follow Si Yihan, so they could only anxiously wait at the bottom. To their surprise, within a few minutes, they caught sight of Si Yihan walking out of the elevator by himself. Si Yihan was wearing only a single shirt. The button at the top of his collar was unbuttoned, and his expression was dark as ink. This scene was seriously too misleading. Oh shit. Don't tell me he really got. Lin Ke turned pale with fright and dashed up. Ninth brother, are you alright? Where are your clothes? What did eldest Missy do to you? Didn't he go to change his clothes? How come his jacket disappeared, and he came out with just his shirt? Si Yihan's extremely chilly gaze shot toward him, and Lin Ke immediately quieted, not daring to ask another word. Yu Xiao and Lin Ke met each other's eyes, their emotions complicated. When Yi Wanwan finally caught up, all she saw were the taillights of a car. Si Yihan had driven away already. When Medusa passed by, she happened to see Yi Wanwan and rushed over, lowering her voice. Little junior sister. Why are you standing here? Yi Wanwan released a long sigh, overwrought. It's a long story. Hurry, where's your car, senior sister? Help me catch up to Si Yihan's car first. I'll tell you in the car. Okay. The two of them hurriedly entered the car. Medusa was driving while Yi Wanwan sat in the front passenger seat. What happened? Didn't you accompany Director C upstairs to change his clothes? Medusa was puzzled. Yi Wanwan's expression darkened. Don't bring it up. I finally managed to abduct him upstairs and didn't have time to do anything before. Guess what? As soon as I entered, I discovered a giant present waiting for me. A giant present? A naked man lying on my bed. Si Yihan ran headfirst into him. Was I wronged or what? Cough, cough, cough. How did that happen? Who did it? Yi Wanwan leaned forward to look ahead as she grumbled. That Director Su. Director Su? No wonder. This does seem like something he'd do. Sigh, this incident was truly too coincidental. Medusa didn't know whether to cry or laugh. The more Yi Wanwan thought about it, the angrier she got. Exactly. He ruined my plans for no reason. Medusa said. Director Su is blinded by greed and has always achieved his goals by hook or crook. From what I know, Director Su's son has a decent character, so he was probably forced by his father, and has it rather rough. Since you abandoned him and ran out tonight, he'll probably have a hard time when he gets home. Yi Wanwan's eyes glinted. I'm very sympathetic to his ordeal, but I'm very sorry. I'm not some holy mother and can't rescue everyone in the world. This matter isn't within my jurisdiction. She put herself on the other side of the equation. If this incident tonight befell Si Yihan, and someone sent some pitiful beautiful woman with a tragic background to Si Yihan, and Si Yihan helped that woman even if it was solely out of sympathy, she would still feel very uncomfortable about that. She already caused Si Yihan to misunderstand her, so how could she meddle in this matter still? Who would she be then? Call her selfish or unsympathetic, but other people's business had nothing to do with her. Medusa was truly surprised when she saw Yi Wanwan's nervous and avoidant attitude. This was her first time seeing little junior sister caring so much about a person. Medusa said, "Your method isn't wrong. Otherwise, if you made this a first and everyone else started following along, you won't be able to handle it. Anyway, it's not convenient for you to do this. It'd be awful if Si Yihan misunderstood you again. Don't worry, leave this matter to me." Yi Wanwan immediately looked at her gratefully. "Thank you, senior sister. You're the best. Why are you being polite to me?" The two of them arrived in front of Si Yihan's current residence. They were about to exit the car when Yi Wanwan suddenly stopped Medusa. "Senior sister, wait." The duo had parked the car far away, and saw that a car seemed to have been parked at the entrance for a very long time. As soon as Si Yihan arrived, the doors to that car opened, and a woman wearing a steward uniform, who looked to be in her 50s or 60s, walked out. Behind the housekeeper were two young, beautiful, and exquisitely dressed girls. One of the girls was exceedingly beautiful, while the other was bewitching and seductively. They were two entirely different types, but both had extremely outstanding looks. When the two girls saw Si Yihan, their eyes brightened, and they unwaveringly stared at him. Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes, feeling the situation taking a downturn. "Eldest young master, you're back." The housekeeper respectfully bowed at Si Yihan. Si Yihan glanced at the two women behind the housekeeper. His mood was bad to begin with, but his expression darkened even more. "It appears Director Yin doesn't recall what I said to her at the banquet last time." The housekeeper had her head lowered and said neither servile nor haughty. "Eldest young master, I'm merely obeying my orders. Madam ordered me to bring these people to you. If you don't accept it, I can only continue to send more." When Lin Kei felt his ninth brother's expression turning more frightening, he felt as though his head could explode. There was already a hole in the ceiling, but it just had to keep raining every night. How come they couldn't nip these peach blossoms and they increased instead? "Say, Auntie Chiao, how can you guys act like this? Ninth brother already said he doesn't need them, but you just have to keep sending them." Lin Kei angrily cried. "This old servant is just obeying her orders. If eldest young master doesn't like these two girls, this old servant can send other girls tomorrow." The housekeeper was unrelenting. Lin Kei, nearby, the volume of their conversation was enough for Yi Wanwan to hear it clearly. She finally realized what was going on. She knew it. She knew it. The matter was identical to her initial anticipations. Yin Yuerong really was poaching her prey from the very beginning, and she was sending people every single day. Yi Wanwan pushed open the door with a swish and stomped out. Medusa was afraid Yi Wanwan would wreak havoc, so she hastily followed. "Housekeeper Chiao." The girl's clear and melodious voice surprised the housekeeper, and the woman reflexively turned to the speaker. "You are." The housekeeper never saw Yi Wanwan in real person but had seen her in photos, so she immediately recognized the newcomer. "Miss Nya?" Behind Yi Wanwan, Medusa spoke up. "This is President Yi's daughter, Yunma, Miss Yi." The housekeeper's expression turned serious and she immediately greeted Yi Wanwan reverently. "So you're Miss Yi. This old servant has been rude." So she was Yunma, the woman whose identity old madam suspected. Lin Kei looked at Yunma, who suddenly appeared, and turned further dumbstruck. "Damn! Why did this woman chase us all the way here? What does she want?" Yu Xiao looked at Yunma and the housekeeper and her two accompanying beautiful women. His head pounded incessantly. What kind of strange scene was this? Yi Wanwan's face was frosty as she surveyed the two beautiful women behind the housekeeper. Housekeeper Qiao, it appears my recent attitude wasn't expressed clearly enough? Housekeeper Qiao kept her head lowered. This old servant doesn't understand your meaning, Miss E. Chapter 23-28. Launch Rampage Mode. Yi Wanwan's lips curled up at the corners, and the chilly aura around her intensified. You don't need to understand anything. You just need to know one thing. I don't care who sent you here, but if I see women appearing within half a step of Director C again, you're solely responsible for the consequences. Housekeeper Qiao, Si Yihan, Lin Ke. Why's this tone so familiar? Yu Xiao, Medusa. The housekeeper was dazed for half a day, at a loss for words. The other person's aura was seriously too frightening. She exerted a terrifying murderous aura, and a formidable pressure that belonged to a superior person. Yi Wanwan's face turned chillier. Her aloof glance felt like a snowstorm. I'll give you 3 seconds. Take your people and scram. The two girls' eyes shot open. They never expected the president's daughter to appear here, bust out and steal a man from them. Unwillingness was written all over their faces, and they kept looking at Si Yihan. After all, as long as they were accepted by Si Yihan, their futures would be bright and smooth. How could they willingly give up such a great opportunity? The seemingly pure-looking girl glanced at Si Yihan aggrievedly before mustering her courage and protesting. Miss E, even if you're President Yi's daughter, aren't you acting too tyrannically? The other seductive girl quickly agreed. That's right. Why won't you allow us to come to Director C's place? He doesn't belong to anyone. Yi Wanwan's eyes were downcast as she chuckled lowly. In the next second, the reverberating clang of a blade was heard as Yi Wanwan casually drew out the backsword Medusa, carried on her person at all times, and chopped the floor by the girl's feet. A crack instantly appeared on the marble floor, and stretched to the tips of the girl's toes. That bloodthirsty posture of an army crawling out of hell scared the two girls to the point of screaming. Yi Wanwan asked, You won't leave? Sure, then stay behind. In other words, leave your lives behind. No. We'll leave. We'll immediately leave. The two girls didn't dare to linger and stumbled and staggered their way into the car. This woman was the daughter of Yi Lingjun. What didn't she dare to do? Upon seeing this, the housekeeper could only also leave for now. After all, even old Madam couldn't determine this woman's identity. If this woman really was Yi Yunma and she antagonized her, they wouldn't be able to endure the consequences. After the housekeeper left, no one said anything, and the entrance was deadly silent. Yi Wanwan didn't utter a single word and silently stood there, negative ions emanating from her every cell. Her fury was on the brink of explosion. Judging from what housekeeper Qiao said just now, this wasn't Yin Yuerong's first time sending women to Si Yihan's doorstep. Fuck. She could forgive the most beautiful woman of Tianshui City, Qin Shiyuan, but even Si Yihan's real mom was poaching her man while sparing no pains. She had obediently waited in Yun City, but what she got was peach blossom admirers fluttering everywhere, and throwing themselves at her man one after another. If she hadn't come, wouldn't he be drowned by his peach blossoms? Gah. Medusa didn't dare to even breathe too loudly, and carefully stared at the backsword in Yi Wanwan's hand. Yunma, my sword, be careful with it. It was over. It appeared little junior sister really reached her limits this time, and was scarier than last time. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao also stopped breathing in their fright. Lin Ke grumbled in an extremely quiet voice. Why does this attitude look more and more familiar to me? Chapter 23-29. You want to bribe me with just this. Meanwhile, Yu Xiao was incredibly anxious. What should they do? It wouldn't do them any good if they really infuriated Yi Yunma. Judging from Yi Yunma's personality, she was probably spoiled rotten by President Yi, and would obtain whatever she wanted regardless of what it was. Furthermore, other people weren't permitted to even touch it. When she liked you, she could listen and do anything you wanted her to do. However, if she was humiliated into anger and she sought retaliation, it'd be over for them. Lin Ke, how about you go and explain things to Miss E? Don't drag us down too, Yu Xiao urged. Lin Ke immediately retreated a step. Are you kidding me? She has a sword in her hand. What if her hand slips? I won't go. If you dare, you go. Yu Xiao had no choice and could do nothing but fret anxiously. It was improbable for him to rely on Si Yihan to pacify and sweet-talk her. Yi Wanwan threw the backsword back to Medusa and looked at the man across from her. She snorted and said, "It appears Director C is surrounded by beautiful women and spending every day in paradise. You seem to be having quite the time in Tianshui City, are indulging in pleasure, and have forgotten your home and duties." I was being meddlesome. Yi Wanwan took a deep step and forcefully suppressed her fury before turning and leaving. If she continued to stay there, she couldn't guarantee what she would do. However, she had just taken a step when her icy hand was clasped from behind. Yi Wanwan stiffened and paused. Her eyes followed the big hand holding her, and she crashed into a pair of deep eyes. Yi Wanwan was expressionless. "What are you doing, Director C? Missy, how about you come inside and have some tea?" "Yi Wanwan, have some tea or ass? I'm full from my anger." Yi Wanwan's face remained chilly. "Forget it. It's late already. Director C is probably unavailable." "I'm available. I still won't drink it." Si Yihan sighed lightly, extended his arms, and gently pulled her into his arms. "Don't be angry. It's my fault." Yi Wanwan. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao's eyes shot open. WW. What the heck was happening? Ninth brother held Yi Yunma's hand of his own volition and also embraced her? Wasn't this too shocking? Medusa was startled initially before exasperation filled her face. Si Yihan probably recognized little junior sister. If she still hadn't lost her disguise, it'd be a miracle. However, she had no idea when this man realized this. When the man's extremely gentle voice drifted into Yi Wanwan's ears and paired with that long-absent embrace, a lump entered her throat, and she felt like a popped balloon. However, when Yi Wanwan saw his attractive face, rage resurged inside of her. It's improper for a man and woman to touch each other. Director C, please conduct. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh light novel. Org before she could finish saying, "Conduct yourself with dignity." The man's cool lips pressed down and stopped her following words. Yi Wanwan. The final remaining anger inside Yi Wanwan instantly dissipated. She blinked and finally realized something. Did I lose my disguise? Damn ninth brother. Lin Ke exclaimed out loud. Yu Xiao was also dumbstruck. Si Yihan originally intended to stop at a light kiss, but the girl's dazed reaction probably pleased him, so he tightened his hold around her waist and kissed her deeper. He finally stopped a moment later, his hand softly petting the top of her head. Yi Wanwan's expression stiffened and she cleared her throat. You want to bribe me with just this? What do you want then? Sleep with me. Okay. Chapter 2330. This familiar flavor of PDA at the door. Although Medusa was mentally prepared, she was still at a loss for words. However, her little junior sister lost her disguise already, so she could only go home first. As for Yu Xiao and Lin Ke, in the night wind, the duo was still frozen like a statue as they watched Yi Yunma and Si Yihan entering the mansion together. Yu Xiao. What should we do? Lin Ke. Didn't you always suggest ninth brother to use the beauty trap? Isn't this perfect according to you? Yu Xiao. But I never said to have Sir go sleep. Lin Ke couldn't listen anymore and finished it for him. Sleep with her. Yu Xiao chased after them in a panic. I can't. I must stop Sir Director. Lin Ke hastily grabbed a hold of him. Come back. Why are you so slow-witted? Can't you tell yet? Yu Xiao was startled. Tell what? Lin Ke grumbled. Yi Yunma is worryless nya. What did you say? How's that possible? Lin Ke looped his arm over Yu Xiao's shoulders, his voice resolute. I also thought it was impossible, but believe me, I wouldn't mistake this familiar flavor of PDA even if I had my eyes closed. Yu Xiao, inside the bedroom. Yi Wanwan furiously sat down on the bed. As Si Yihan loosened the buttons on his dress shirt with one hand, he leaned over to pat her on the head with the other hand. Wait for me to change. He got splashed with a full cup of red wine by Yi Wanwan earlier. His jacket wasn't the only casualty. His dress shirt also got stained quite a bit. Si Yihan's motions as he changed were leisurely and simply pleasing to the eye. However, he was just too slow. As Yi Wanwan sat there, she was evidently impatient. Si Yihan naturally noticed her expression. He stopped, leaving his buttons halfway buttoned. He approached her, still angry. Upon seeing Si Yihan finally sparing that shirt, Yi Wanwan's expression eased a little. She pulled and forcefully pressed him onto the bed. When did you recognize me? Si Yihan. Just now. Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes, clearly disbelieving him. Really? Si Yihan could only correct himself. When you invited me to dance with you. Tell the truth. Si Yihan's lips turned up. The first time I saw you. Yi Wanwan was stupefied. That's illogical. He actually recognized me so easily? And you kept rejecting me? Yi Wanwan glared at him. Si Yihan replied. I was just cooperating with you. Yi Wanwan actually had nothing to refute that. She originally thought she was the champion already. And yeah, she was the champion indeed, but Si Yihan was more heavenly defying. He was the GM. Si Yihan clasped her waist with one hand and aloofly asked, You don't need to return to the hotel? At the mention of the hotel, Yi Wanwan naturally recalled the wild man on her bed. Yi Wanwan sounded weaker immediately. Ahem, why would I return to the hotel? Of course I don't have to. I really didn't know anything about tonight's incident. It was all Director Su's fault. He stuffed that guy inside my room. I'm also the victim here. Anyhow, I just had one guy, but someone's been sending you beautiful women every single day, Si Yihan said. I need to apologize to you regarding my mother's matter. I was worried you'd get angry, which was why I didn't want you to come to Tianshui City and stick your feet into this messy situation. How could she still be angry after listening to Si Yihan's words? Her heart panged for him. Then we're even. You also aren't allowed to be angry anymore. Yi Wanwan said. I'll try my best. Yi Wanwan. Shouldn't he open-heartedly say he's not angry? Does he have to be so honest? Fine. Your vinegar factory is large-scaled. Whatever you say goes. Chapter 2331. Who doesn't know how to compete with their dads? When Yi Wanwan saw that Si Yihan wasn't asking her about Yunma, she couldn't resist asking, Aren't you going to ask me what's the deal with Yunma? Si Yihan embraced her. If you want to tell me, you'll naturally tell me. Well, this actually involves Lingjuan's secret, and I can't tell an outsider or else it'd probably set off a giant storm. Yi Wanwan's tone took a turn. However, you're not an outsider anyway, so it's fine to tell you. Si Yihan's eyes softened upon hearing this. Well, Lingjun actually has a secret identity, and his other identity happens to be someone I know. Another identity? Lingjuan's second identity was someone Yi Wanwan knew. Si Yihan couldn't figure it out immediately. Yi Wanwan nodded and replied, You definitely won't believe it when I tell you. Lingjuan's other alias is Lianjua. Astonishment flickered through Si Yihan's eyes. This answer was truly very surprising. Lianjua? Your master? Yi Wanwan sighed. That's right. It's him. When he found me, I was also scared witless and never expected that old freak, Lianjua, to have such an alias. One of them was a well-respected martial arts master, while the other one was an old freak whom everyone in the independent state wants to throttle. These two people, who are as different night and day, are actually the same person. After hearing this, Si Yihan finally understood the whole story of the matter. No wonder. Yi Wanwan continued to explain. As for why I suddenly turned into his daughter, it's merely that guy's awful sense of humor. He doesn't have a daughter, so he wanted to abduct one without having to do anything to enjoy the fun of it. Of course I couldn't agree to that kind of ridiculous request. But then that day I saw. Si Yihan seemed to have realized something. When I visited President Yi that day, you were also there? Yi Wanwan's eyes were resentful. That's right. I also saw Qin Shiyuan getting handsy with you. How could I tolerate it? So, I agreed to it in my anger. Competing dads? Who doesn't know how? So the table in President Yi's living room. I broke it. The crack on the floor. I hacked it. Si Yihan. So all the things she said on the phone that day, telling him to rest easy and saying she absolutely wouldn't be impulsive or misunderstand. Not a single word was true. He should have known. As they spoke, Yi Wanwan's phone started ringing. It was Yi Lingjun calling. Yi Wanwan exasperatedly accepted the call. As soon as the call connected, Yi Lingjun's emotional, accusatory voice was heard. What happened to your professional standard? And I absolutely won't lose my disguise. Huh? Yi Wanwan unhappily poked Si Yihan, and didn't stop until Si Yihan grabbed her unruly hands. She sighed and replied to Yi Lingjun. Disguise? What disguise? I've been transparent in front of my baby since the beginning. Yi Lingjun, Si Yihan. Yi Wanwan continued. It's perfect that I lost my disguise. Saves me the work of tiring myself to death in pursuing him again. Alright, I'll talk to you later, Dad. I'm gonna hang up now, I gotta sleep. Good night, bye-bye. Yi Lingjun protested. Wait. Where are you sleeping, huh? Hey. Beep beep beep. Yi Wanwan decisively hung up. Yi Wanwan said. You promised you'll sleep with me tonight. You can't go back on it. You can come over anytime, Si Yihan replied. Much better. Chapter 2332. Choke them to death early next morning. Why did you wake up so early? Yi Wanwan poked out her head from the covers. Meeting, Si Yihan replied. Yi Wanwan's eyes turned, and she instantly nestled out of the covers with a roll. Oh, a meeting, is it? I'll take you there. Si Yihan covered her with the blanket again. No need. Sleep a little more. Yi Wanwan's fighting spirit was brimming. No way. I have to drive you there. I haven't started spreading dog food yet. I must choke that dog couple to death. Si Yihan exasperatedly glanced at her, and could only watch her leap out like an Energizer bunny. Yi Wanwan gave senior sister a call, and asked her to send someone to drive her car over there. Then, she put on her makeup and changed her clothes at lightning speed, switching into Iyunma mode. This sports car was prepared for her by Yi Lingjun, but she hadn't used it before. It happened to come in handy now. The meeting was held at the Arbitration Council building. Under the morning sun, all the higher-ups and directors of the Arbitration Council arrived in succession. Qin Shiyuan, Yin Heng, and several directors were engaged in conversation by the entrance. With Qin Zong's assistance, Yin Heng could attend the meeting too. Although he was just a spectator, it was the same as halfway entering the Arbitration Council. At that moment, a flashy, newest model silver sports car halted to a stop with a swish, attracting quite a number of gazes. The back door opened and Yi Wanwan stepped out in her 12-centimeter high heels. Missy. Good morning, Missy. Are you also here to attend the meeting, Missy? Many people started greeting Yi Wanwan, their imaginations surging. It appeared Yi Lingjun was truly preparing to allow Iyunma to enter the Arbitration Council. Yi Wanwan maintained her chilly expression amidst everyone's rampant discussion and aloofly said, The meeting is unrelated to me. I'm merely dropping someone off. Dropping someone off? Everyone was more shocked. Dropping off who? Who was powerful enough to make Iyunma personally drop them off? President Yi had entered already, so it couldn't be President Yi. Under everyone's intense stares, the other car door opened, and Si Yihan stepped out. Damn. Isn't that Director? Director C? What's going on? Why did Director C come out of Missy's car? Missy is dropping off Director C? Yin Heng's expression froze the same moment everyone's gaze turned to him. He had obtained information last night that said Si Yihan came out not long after entering Iyunma's room. So he eased up. Who would have expected Si Yihan to come out of Iyunma's car this early in the morning? After Si Yihan exited the car, he stopped in front of Yi Wanwan. I'm going to the meeting now. Okay. After saying that, Si Yihan prepared to enter. Yi Wanwan's brows raised as she called out. Hold on. Si Yihan paused. Is there something else, Miss E? Haven't you forgotten something, Director C? Before Si Yihan could react, Yi Wanwan took a step forward and leaned over, pressing a kiss on his lips. Gasps surrounded them. Nearly everyone was stupefied. Shit. What kind of shocking scene was this? The morning sun bore down on a girl standing on her tiptoes and kissing a man, creating a scene as beautiful as an oil painting. Chapter 2333. Directly going public. Si Yihan concealed the gentleness that wouldn't dissipate from his eyes and lowered his voice as he said, "Don't overdo it." Otherwise, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to control himself or continue cooperating with her act. Oh my God! What did I see? Th this is considered directly going public, right? It's going public without a doubt, alright? If everything before was still ambiguous and suggestive, now it was definitely without a doubt. Nearby, Director Su felt sweat drenching him as he watched this scene from a corner. He never expected Yunma to have really taken a fancy to Si Yihan. In the end, by sending his son to her last night, not only did he not gain any favor with Yunma, but he also disturbed her plan. He didn't know whether it was his imagination or not, but Director Su's gaze toward him today also seemed especially frightening. Aside from Director Su, everyone with ulterior motives also shook their heads and sighed. Now they wouldn't have a chance. Having made up their goodbye kiss, Yuanwan finally allowed Si Yihan to leave. After spreading the dog food, Yuanwan drove back to the mansion. Yuanwan was originally planning to go back to her room to sleep some more when a knock was suddenly heard at her door. Enter. Housekeeper Wu, what is it? Yuanwan asked when she saw the housekeeper, who pushed open the door. This residence and housekeeper were all prepared for her by Yi Lingjun. She heard that this housekeeper had been working for the Yi clan for many years, and was considered an all-knowing character in Tianshui City. It was because of this that Yi Lingjun had placed Yuanwan in this housekeeper's care without worry. Aside from arranging for Yuanwan's daily necessities, if she needed any minor matters to be handled, she could leave them to this housekeeper and they'd be done perfectly. After all, Yuanwan hadn't been in Tianshui City long, and was unfamiliar with Tianshui City still, especially the intricate and complicated power web. She might get into big trouble, with perhaps the slightest accident. Miss, there's a young chap, an elderly man asking to see you. The housekeeper reported to Yuanwan reverently. Elderly man, young chap. Yuanwan was pensive. Yes. The housekeeper nodded. They visited before dawn, but you went to sleep already, miss, so I didn't disturb you. All right, housekeeper Wu. Let them enter, Yuanwan said. After obtaining Yuanwan's permission, housekeeper Wu didn't say anything else and turned to leave. Yuanwan guessed that the young chap and elderly man housekeeper Wu spoke of might be first elder, and the others. As she expected, several minutes later, housekeeper Wu led Big Dipper and first elder inside the room. You can leave for now, housekeeper Wu, Yuanwan said. All right, Mississippi, call me if you need anything. Housekeeper Wu retreated from the room, closing the door behind her. After housekeeper Wu left, Yuanwan imperceptibly surveyed First Elder and Big Dipper. She inevitably felt confused about how First Elder and Big Dipper knew she lived here. You your sis phone, right? Big Dipper examined Yuanwan a few times before asking uncertainly. Wasn't the woman in front of him seriously too different from the sis phone in his mind who committed any imaginable misdeed? Although there weren't many changes in terms of appearance, what was the matter with this bone-chilling aura? Furthermore, the makeup was also drastically different. In his memory, Sis Feng dressed up and put on makeup very rarely. Even if she did put makeup on, it was very reserved, and she liked to turn herself into an angelic little fairy. On the other hand, this woman's makeup fully displayed her beauty vividly without any restraint and was very prominent. Chapter 2334. Did something major forget about Big Dipper? But even First Elder was a bit suspicious and uncertain, afraid they'd found the wrong person. Before Big Dipper could say anything else, Yuanwan casually sat back on the sofa and impatiently ordered, "Spit it out." Big Dipper. He repented for his previous thoughts. This was President Fearless, Sis Feng herself for sure. Damn, Sis Feng, aren't you too gutsy? You actually dared to impersonate President Yi's daughter. If you're discovered, it's not a joke. Big Dipper was soaked in sweat from fright. He originally just visited to feel things out, but didn't expect it to really be true. They were seriously too naive to have actually thought Sis Feng had changed and obediently returned to Yun City. They didn't expect her to create a debacle and cause trouble as soon as she came. She dared to pull off something like impersonating Yi Lingjuan's daughter. How did you find me? Yuanwan was curious. Wasn't there a gathering for the arbitration council's higher-ups yesterday? Well, we were following Yin Yuerong the whole time and happened to see you, Sis Feng, when the event was over. However, there were too many people and you looked slightly different, so we didn't dare to attempt to see you. Anyway, we found out you lived here afterward, Big Dipper explained. You were following Yin Yuerong? Yuanwan looked at Big Dipper. Why were you following Yin Yuerong? Wasn't scouting information from her a mission you gave us, Sis Feng? Big Dipper asked. Yuanwan was dumbfounded. She just told them to scout for information. She didn't tell them to follow Yin Yuerong. Who was Yin Yuerong? Where did they get the guts to rashly follow her? They were lucky to still be alive. Sis Feng, your phone has been unreachable. Something major happened last night. Big Dipper exclaimed with a sigh. What happened? Yuanwan frowned. She was with Si Yihan last night, and they were finally able to spend time alone. So she turned off her phone before going to bed. Third Elder was captured while he was near Yin Yuerong's house. We got this information in the middle of the night, Big Dipper said. Third Elder was captured. Yuanwan was startled. Weren't you guys together? No wonder Big Dipper and First Elder sought her out in such a great hurry. Sis Feng, we work in 3 shifts, and switch between following and scouting, Big Dipper replied matter-of-factly. The corners of Yuanwan's lips twitched, unable to say anything for several minutes. She truly underestimated these fools' ability to kill themselves. Sis Feng, hurry and think of something. I think Third Elder's fate is hanging by a thread this time. Ending up in Yin Yuerong's hands, he'll lose a layer of skin even if he doesn't die. Big Dipper said anxiously. What's the hurry? Have you forgotten who our president is right now? As the daughter of President Yi right now, it'll be a piece of cake for her to save Third Elder, First Elder retorted. Yuanwan rubbed her chin and thought for a moment before shaking her head. How did you get the news that Third Elder was captured? Information leaked from the Yin residence, of course. How else would we find out? Big Dipper asked. Wait. Yuanwan looked pensive. With Yin Yuerong's capabilities, this type of information absolutely couldn't leak out easily if she was unwilling. Unless, it was information Yin Yuerong purposely leaked out. If it was information Yin Yuerong purposely leaked out, then the tricks inside would be immeasurable, and things absolutely weren't as simple as they appeared. First of all, Yin Yuerong had always been suspicious of her identity as the president's daughter. So if she appeared at this moment and rescued Third Elder, even if she did it nonchalantly, it would be the same as ripping away her own disguise to someone like Yin Yuerong. Chapter 2335. That was gifting a kill. She had to be extremely cautious regarding her identity toward Yin Yuerong. Currently speaking, she couldn't expose it to those higher-ups from the arbitration council, especially Yin Yuerong. If other people learned that Yi Lingjun had intentionally deceived people, it might impact Yi Lingjun's prestige. Sis Feng, what's wrong? Big Dipper asked Yuanwan inquisitively. Nothing. Yuanwan shook her head and said to Big Dipper and First Elder a moment later, I'll continue to leave this matter regarding Third Elder to you guys. Leave this matter to us? Big Dipper was astonished. What does leave this matter to us mean, Sis Feng? Rescue Third Elder. Yuanwan said matter-of-factly. Huh. Big Dipper and First Elder met each other's eyes. Rescue Third Elder? How? Third Elder was currently in Yin Yuerong's possession, and was definitely imprisoned inside her house. Should they infiltrate Yin Yuerong's house to rescue Third Elder? That wasn't rescuing someone. That was gifting a kill. Sis Feng, are you serious? Big Dipper's lips twitched. What kind of grievances and enmities did she have with them? It wasn't that they didn't want to rescue Third Elder, but the main problem was the enemy was too powerful. If they really went to rescue Third Elder, they'd be dying hand in hand with Third Elder. President. First Elder looked at Yuanwan and calmly said, with the current situation, it isn't realistic for us to rely on ourselves to rescue Third Elder. Yin Yuerong must be very vigilant. And I reckon she probably made all the preparations already. She's probably planning to catch a turtle in a jar, and catch us in one fell swoop. Yuanwan smiled faintly and waved her hand. I'm not telling you to go to the Een residence to rescue Third Elder, but you must go through all the motions on the surface. Sis Feng, what do you mean? How come I don't understand? Big Dipper asked. You have to at least let Een Yuerong know you're really anxious and are trying to think of a rescue method. That's all you need to do. As for Third Elder, you won't need to worry about him, Yuanwan explained. Big Dipper still didn't fully understand his president's meaning or objective. Upon seeing Big Dipper about to inquire some more, Yuanwan interrupted. Don't ask anything else. Just do as I say. I will handle Third Elder's matter, all right? Since you said that, then I understand, Sis Feng. I'm good at performing the gestures and putting on a show. Leave it to me. There won't be any problems. Big Dipper promised her with a slap of his chest. After Big Dipper and First Elder left, Yuanwan went back to sleep. In the next few days, Yuanwan frequently attended all sorts of seminars and occasions with Yi Lingjun, and acted like she didn't care about Third Elder being captured. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Since Een Yuerong suspected her, she'd beat that woman at her own game. Furthermore, Yuanwan told Si Yihin that he must guarantee Third Elder's safety, so she felt a little more at ease with Si Yihin watching. However, Si Yihin could only assure her that Third Elder's life wasn't at risk and couldn't guarantee anything else. Yuanwan was well aware of Si Yihin and Een Yuerong's current relationship, so it was already enough that she knew Third Elder was fine right now. At the Een residence, in the past several days, Yunma didn't show up and seemed to be ignorant of the information they leaked. Furthermore, the Fearless Alliance group kept lingering around the Een residence all day long, as though they were thinking up a method to rescue the elderly man who was captured. Madam, there seems to be something strange about this matter. Chapter 2336. Isn't that too coincidental? In the living room, Een Yuerong's expression was dark as ink as she listened to Auntie Qiao. Een Yuerong was quiet for a moment before turning to Auntie Qiao. I think it's strange now that you mention it. I intentionally leaked this information in order to mess up Worryless Nye's own plans. There should be zero slip-ups when it's a matter of a Fearless Alliance higher-up's life or death. Madam, if that's the case, I think there are only two possibilities, Auntie Qiao said. Auntie Qiao, tell me, which two possibilities could it be? Een Yuerong asked. All right. Auntie Qiao nodded. Madam, the person captured is Third Elder from the Fearless Alliance and appears to have a rather close relationship with Worryless Nye, but is it possible that Worryless Nye doesn't care about Third Elder's life or death at all? If that's the case, even if Worryless Nye was impersonating Yunma, she wouldn't care about Third Elder's fate. Een Yuerong mulled over it for a minute before shaking her head. No. I discovered that Worryless Nye is a particularly loyal person. Not to mention an elder from the Fearless Alliance, but even if the hostage was a mid-level higher-up, she wouldn't leave them to die. Moreover, this Third Elder is rather close to her. Many days ago, Een Yuerong launched a thorough investigation on Yi Wanwan and learned every detail about her. Then madam, the second possibility. This Yunma is indeed President Yi's daughter and isn't being impersonated by Worryless Nye, Auntie Qiao continued. I don't believe there could actually be such similar-looking people in this world. Isn't that too coincidental? Een Yuerong snorted. Een Yuerong turned to Auntie Qiao and asked, Auntie Qiao, how's your progress on the matter I had you investigate? Madam, I was actually about to inform you that there was indeed someone named Yunma overseas, and we investigated the prestigious school she attended. We also found Yunma's classmate and had her classmate look at the photo we took at the banquet. Auntie Qiao replied calmly. Oh, Een Yuerong's eyes flashed. And the results? Madam, the result was that Yunma's classmate recognized her immediately after seeing the photo, and confirmed that the person in the photo we took was Yunma herself indeed. From the information we obtained, Yunma appears to have been very domineering at school, and her current personality is very similar too. After listening to Auntie Qiao's report, confusion surfaced on Een Yuerong's face. How could that be possible? Could Yunma and Worryless Nye really be two different people? However, if they were really two different people, why did they look so similar? Auntie Chiao, take a trip to Yunma's residence and invite her over. I'd like to see whether she's a real princess or a Cinderella. Yin Yuerong's eyes glinted coldly. At the residency, Lingjun arranged for Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan was lying in bed and scrolling through her phone. Mississippi. Housekeeper Wu's voice came from outside the door. Enter, Yi Wanwan called out. Housekeeper Wu entered the room. What is it? Yi Wanwan asked the other woman. Miss, Housekeeper Chiao from the Yin family is here to see you. Will you see her? Housekeeper Wu inquired. Housekeeper Chiao. Yi Wanwan was perplexed. Miss Housekeeper Chiao is Yin Yuerong's confidant and holds some reputation in Tianshui City. She isn't someone insignificant, Housekeeper Wu explained. Chapter 2337, Probing I See. Yi Wanwan's lips curled up when she learned Housekeeper Chiao's identity. She had been running around with Yi Lingjun and attending all kinds of seminars these last few days. It appeared Yin Yuerong had turned antsy. All right, let her enter, Yi Wanwan said. A moment later, Housekeeper Wu led a well-dressed, middle-aged woman into the room. Hello, Miss Yi. It's an honor to see you again. Auntie Chiao greeted her with a faint smile after a few scrutinizing glances. It was Yin Yuerong, Director Yin, who sent you here? Yi Wanwan glanced at Housekeeper Chiao and recognized her as the person who brought women to see Yi Hin that night. Indeed, Miss Yi. Housekeeper Chiao nodded. State your purpose, Yi Wanwan aloofly said. Miss Yi, my madam wants to invite you to visit the Yin residence. Do you have the time, Miss Yi? Auntie Chiao said. I don't, Yi Wanwan replied. Auntie Chiao's expression turned embarrassed. Wasn't this type of personality too unapproachable? In her mind, the most unapproachable person she had ever met in her lifetime was Yin Yuerong. But when compared to this person before her, Yin Yuerong didn't hold a candle to her. She had seen all kinds of people, but this Yi Yunma couldn't simply be considered unapproachable. She wouldn't give you an opportunity to approach or interact with her. People like her were typically haughty and condescending to their bones, considering every person and matter beneath them. For example, Yin Yuerong was at least obsessive, which was a type of attitude, but Yi Yunma didn't even have anything that could be considered an attitude, which was most frightening. Missy, Yi Wanwan frowned deeply when Auntie Chiao was about to speak, a cold glint surfacing in her eyes. I thought I clearly told you just now that I didn't have time. She then looked at Housekeeper Wu. Housekeeper Wu. Housekeeper Wu expressionlessly said to Auntie Chiao, Housekeeper Chiao, please don't make things difficult for this servant. If Director Yin wants to see my miss, please trouble her and ask her to come here herself. She doesn't need to come here, Yi Wanwan interjected coldly. Housekeeper Chiao, I think my miss has clearly expressed herself. This way please, Housekeeper Wu said. All right, I've disturbed you today. Please pardon me, Miss Yi. Auntie Chiao then followed Housekeeper Wu out of the room. At the Yin residence. After Yin Yuerong heard Auntie Chiao retell her visit, her expression turned extremely unsightly. She's seriously viewing herself like a princess. Huh, she wants to make me visit her personally? Yin Yuerong glowered with a snort. There wasn't anyone who dared to treat her with this kind of attitude in the 12 independent states. Madam, what Yi Yunma meant is that she wouldn't have time to see you even if you personally visited her. Auntie Chiao responded helplessly. Yin Yuerong snorted. Interesting. Very interesting. Madam, there's something I don't know whether I should say or not, Auntie Chiao said hesitantly. What can't be said between us? Speak, Yin Yuerong ordered. Madam, based on my observations today and the information we obtained from Yi Yunma's school, it's improbable that this Yi Yunma is being impersonated by worryless Nia, Auntie Chiao said. So what you're saying is that she's indeed President Yi's daughter, Yi Yunma? Yin Yuerong's brows locked together. I personally think it's close to the mark. This Yi Yunma is haughty and prideful to the bones, and extremely condescending and difficult to talk to. She doesn't give other people any opportunities to interact with her. However, there's a potential method we could use to invite her here, Auntie Chiao said. Chapter 2338. Going according to her plan. What's the method? Yin Yuerong asked. The information I obtained is that Yunma appears to be interested in eldest young master. That night, she directly kicked out the 2 women I brought over, and declared that she wouldn't permit me to bring anyone over again. Her interest is very evident already. Later, she publicly dropped eldest young master off at a meeting. If Madam uses eldest young master as an excuse to invite her here, we might have a better chance, Auntie Qiao said. Huh? Interested in Ajio? Yin Yuerong's lips curled into a bone-chilling smile. That makes her more suspicious, doesn't it? Madam, not necessarily. Auntie Qiao shook her head. Women with a personality like hers are haughty and arrogant to their cores, so they're actually more easily attracted to people with eldest young master's personality like a magnet. Furthermore, all the evidence clearly indicates that worryless Nye and Yunma are 2 different people. The people we sent to Yun City yesterday have returned already, and they said worryless Nye is indeed still in Yun City right now and is currently fretting over Third Elder's matter. Did they see worryless Nye in the flesh? Yin Yuerong asked. No. Auntie Qiao shook her head. However, the spies I placed in the Fearless Alliance said worryless Nye summoned several urgent meetings with the higher-ups these past few days. So there most likely isn't a mistake. My statement still holds true. We'll be able to see whether she's a true princess or a Cinderella after one visit to the Yin residence, Yin Yuerong said mockingly. Early the next morning, Yuanwan had just woken up when she received a call from Si Yihan. Baby, did you miss me? Yuanwan greeted him cheerily. My mother sought me out yesterday. Si Yihan was frank. Oh, what did she say? Yuanwan asked curiously. She wanted me to invite you to the Yin residence, Si Yihan answered. So you refused her? Yuanwan was pensive. I agreed, Si Yihan replied. Yuanwan was dumbfounded. Agreed? Seriously? My mother is very suspicious about your identity, so there were probably 2 objectives for making me invite you, Si Yihan said. First of all, she wants to test my attitude. If I refused, her suspicion definitely wouldn't be eliminated. Yuanwan was aware of this as well, because the true Yunma wouldn't be in any danger if she went to the Yin residence. However, if a fake Yunma visited the Yin residence, her life would be in danger. If Si Yihan rejected, Yin Yuerong would probably just employ more extreme methods. Ah baby, you're too smart, Yuanwan said. Don't praise me so fast, Si Yihan interrupted her exasperatedly. Second of all, my mother wants you to visit the Yin residence to ascertain your identity. At the very least, she did this because she can't determine whether you're truly Yunma or an imposter. Yuanwan nodded. I know. Although I agreed, you don't need to go anywhere. I'll handle everything regarding my mother, including Third Elder. I'll think of a way to rescue him, Si Yihan said. After hanging up, Yuanwan smiled faintly. She naturally had to go to the Yin residence eventually. Everything was still going according to her plan. If Yin Yuerong wanted to test her, her only option was to use Third Elder. She didn't have any other methods. Miss, Housekeeper Qiao is here again. Housekeeper Wu's voice came from outside the door. All right. Tell her to wait for me. I'll personally pay a visit to Director Yin Yuerong this time, Yuanwan said. Chapter 2339. You honored us with your presence, although Housekeeper Wu didn't understand why Miss suddenly agreed to visit Yin Yuerong's residence. She merely nodded and didn't say anything. After Yi Wanwan got ready and changed into a dress with her long hair loosely draped behind her, she strode out of her bedroom. Hello, Missy. Auntie Qiao walked forward as soon as she saw Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan glanced at Auntie Qiao and nodded in response. Miss, do you need me to accompany you? Housekeeper Wu asked Yi Wanwan from behind. No need. I'll go by myself, Yi Wanwan replied. All right. Call me if you need anything, Mississippi. Housekeeper Wu then watched Yi Wanwan boarding the Yin family's car. At the Yin residence. This was Yi Wanwan's first time visiting the Yin residence, but for some reason, the atmosphere here felt very repressive and made it difficult to breathe. Miss Nya, this way please. Auntie Qiao's eyes turned as she spoke to Yi Wanwan with a smile. Yi Wanwan was about to instinctively reply, but sensed something was off as the words reached her lips and she halted in time. What did you just call me? Nya. Yu Wanwan looked at Auntie Chiao. No, you might have misheard me, Missy. I meant this way, please, Missy. Auntie Chiao said hastily. Yu Wanwan didn't say anything and followed Auntie Chiao toward the house. After Auntie Chiao addressed her as Miss Nia, Yu Wanwan grew more certain that Yin Yuerong's suspicion toward her definitely hadn't dissipated. It appeared she needed to exercise more vigilance and absolutely couldn't allow herself to be tricked. Head Director Yin has quite the attitude. Yu Wanwan suddenly snorted. Auntie Chiao was startled. Miss E, why do you say that? What? First, Director Yin didn't personally visit my residence to invite me over. Now that I'm at the Yin residence, Director Yin Yuerong won't even come out to receive me. Yu Wanwan replied. Apologies, Miss E, the past few days, Director Yin hasn't been feeling well. Please excuse her and don't take offense, Auntie Chiao hastily explained. In Auntie Chiao's mind, the identity of this daughter of the Arbitration Council's president was nearly certain, so she didn't dare to slight her in any manner. Moments later, Auntie Chiao led Yu Wanwan inside the house. Yin Yuerong was expressionlessly sitting on the sofa. When she saw Yu Wanwan, she slowly stood up, a faintly discernible smile on her lips. Miss E, you honored us with your presence. Pardon me for not going out to meet you. Yu Wanwan ignored Yin Yuerong and directly sat on the chief seat. Oh, so it appears Director Yin has some self-awareness. Since you know you were remiss in not coming out to meet me, why didn't you come out? Yu Wanwan glanced at the other woman. Iciness surfaced in Yin Yuerong's eyes, and a chilly smile hung on her lips. Heh. Housekeeper Chiao must have told Miss E, right? I haven't been feeling well recently, so I can't catch a chill. Please don't take offense, Miss E. You can't catch a chill. Yu Wanwan's gaze landed on Yin Yuerong. Since Director Yin can't catch a chill, you should recuperate at home properly and shouldn't seek me out for no reason. I'm healthy and still have business to attend to. Yu Wanwan didn't give Yin Yuerong an opportunity to answer before asking. Where's Director C? Audiobook isn't back yet. Yin Yuerong nonchalantly replied. Isn't back yet? Yu Wanwan's expression chilled instantly. A single glance and that was enough to drop people into an ice cave. Are you kidding? I came here for Director C. Since Director C isn't back yet, I don't have time to waste with you. Yu Wanwan then stood up and made to leave. Chapter 2340. The two of them have an illegitimate son together. Miss Wanwan, hold on. I think you should be interested to hear about some matters regarding Audiobook, right? Yin Yuerong called out when she saw Yu Wanwan about to leave. Alright, tell me. No matter what, you're Director C's mother, correct? The corner of Yu Wanwan's lips turned up. Hey Missy, there's no rush. I heard earlier that Missy plans to start working in the Arbitration Council, so there are some work matters I'd like to discuss with Missy right now, Yin Yuerong said. Director Yin, I still haven't entered the Arbitration Council yet, so if you want to discuss work-related matters, I suggest you make an appointment with my father. It'd be more appropriate for you to visit my father, Yu Wanwan responded. Yin Yuerong smiled. It's not a discussion per se. I merely wanted to give you some suggestions, Miss E, and I also think you'd be interested in knowing about this. Yin Yuerong didn't give Yu Wanwan a chance to say anything and continued. Several nights ago, the third elder of a faction from Yun City called the Fearless Alliance was following me and was captured. He's currently imprisoned at this residence. After saying that, Yin Yuerong secretly observed every shift in Yu Wanwan's emotions. This should be a private matter of Director Yin's, and is unrelated to the Arbitration Council, right? Yu Wanwan asked. Indeed, it's unrelated to the Arbitration Council, but it's related to Audiobook, Yin Yuerong said. At the mention of Audiobook, Yu Wanwan immediately became intrigued. Do tell, Director Yin. Miss E, you haven't known Audiobook for a long time, so you don't know him well. Do you know that the president of the group, Fearless Alliance, happens to be Audiobook's love, and the two of them have an illegitimate son together? Yin Yuerong asked. Lover. Yu Wanwan looked pensively at Yin Yuerong. It appears Director C has quite a romantic history. However, I'm rather curious as to why you're telling me this, Director Yin. Yin Yuerong imperceptibly surveyed Yu Wanwan. She found it a bit difficult to see through this woman in front of her. Miss E. What I'm saying is that the elderly man I captured is a member of Audio's lovers faction. He was most likely following me to scout for information since I strongly oppose Audio's relationship with that woman. It was a rather desperate method now that I think about it. Inuerong flashed a fake smile at her. With Director C's qualities, having admirers and even several lovers is very normal. Director C is your son, not my son, so what's the meaning of saying all this to me? Yi Wanwan retorted with a snort. Oh, Missy doesn't care? Inuerong asked. Why should I care? Yi Wanwan's lips turned up. If a person doesn't even have any history, how is he outstanding? The more history he has, the more attractive and outstanding he is, right? Yi Wanwan asked. Inuerong's lips twitched. The extent of this woman's open-mindedness in regards to romantic affairs was truly an eye-opener for her. Furthermore, Yi Wanwan managed to tactfully avoid Third Elder's matter, so Inuerong didn't know how to continue. Also, Director Ian, I do hold some interest in your son, but remember, it's just some interest. I will have the greatest tolerance for anything I like, whether it's a person, item, or even an animal. I also won't care about their past. Of course, once I lose interest in this person, I will destroy him, including everything around him, Yi Wanwan said with a faint smile. Chapter 2341. You vicious woman, including everything around him, for example? Inuerong asked aloofly. For example, you Director Ian. Yi Wanwan replied nonchalantly. On the side, Auntie Chiao couldn't help but wipe away her sweat as she watched the secret exchange of blows between Inuerong and Yi Wanwan. Yunma absolutely wasn't a person who was easy to fool. Madame previously used the excuse of feeling unwell to make an opening gambit, and Yunma started retaliating promptly. Moreover, Yunma's retaliation was simple and rough without any beating around the bush. She was truly a character who was arrogant and conceited to her very core. What was most important was that as President Yi's precious daughter, Yunma did indeed have this right. An inscrutable smile hung on Inuerong's lips. She didn't say anything and merely turned to Auntie Chiao. Auntie Chiao, bring him here. Yes, madam. Auntie Chiao nodded and retreated quickly. After Auntie Chiao left, Inuerong scrutinized Yi Wanwan and meaningfully said, I heard that you were living abroad previously, Miss E. I imagine your school life abroad should have been very plentiful, right? Yi Wanwan glanced at Inuerong. What? Director Ian is very interested in my private life? Not exactly. After all, you're the president's daughter, Miss E, and will enter the arbitration council in the future and will become colleagues, so it wouldn't be bad to get to know you more now. What do you think, Miss E? Inuerong said. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, Auntie Chiao had returned already and several young men from the Yin family were following her and carting an elderly man. The elderly man looked extremely battered and exhausted. His clothes had turned to rags and were shockingly stained with blood. Yi Wanwan involuntarily furrowed her brows when she saw the elderly man. Inuerong actually brought Third Elder to her. The elderly man originally looked like he would rather die than submit, but his expression changed after seeing Yi Wanwan. Why was the president in the Yin residence? Furthermore, wasn't her style of dress way too different from her typical style? Even he almost didn't recognize her. Third Elder quickly looked away from Yi Wanwan. He didn't know what had happened. As people said, you lost more the more you spoke, so he simply remained quiet. Third Elder from the Fearless Alliance. Your president is here to save you. Inuerong suddenly said to Third Elder with an eerie smile hanging from her lips. Third Elder furrowed his brows. What trick was this woman playing? Could the president have finished negotiating with Inuerong? However, for some reason, Third Elder had a persistent feeling that something was amiss. Inuerong wanted nothing more than to shred the president to pieces. So how could she get along with the president so pleasantly? Moreover, the president was dressed differently than usual, and her aura especially had undergone a drastic transformation. What was most vital was that the president merely glanced at him one time from the time he entered the room till now. If it was really as Inuerong said, and the president came to save him, the president's attitude was a giant problem. Third elder closed his eyes in thought, and made himself calm down to mull over what trick they were playing right now. A moment later, third elder appeared to have recalled something, and his eyes shot open, angrily glaring at Inuerong. I understand, you vicious woman. Chapter 2342. What act was he pulling? Inuerong was startled. Forget about Inuerong, but Yuanwan herself was astonished. What act was third elder pulling? Tell me, what's your intention behind making this woman get plastic surgery and transform to look like our president? Do you want her to seduce your son, Si Yihin? Or do you hold some ulterior motives toward the Fearless Alliance? Third elder demanded fiercely. Yuanwan, I'm telling you, how you want to treat your son is unrelated to the Fearless Alliance, but if you want to use this woman to scheme against the Fearless Alliance, you're delusional. A person may draw a tiger in so far as its skin, but it's hard to draw its bones. No matter how much this woman resembles our president, I can see through her with a single look. If she wants to impersonate our president, she should start imitating her from the demeanor. Third elder continued to yell. Director Ian, just what game are you playing with me? What? Did you invite me here to use me as entertainment? Yuanwan coldly questioned. Emissy, this man is an elder from the Fearless Alliance. I didn't expect him to dare to offend you, Missy. How do you think I should punish him? Keep him to torture him, or give him a quick end? Of course, I don't care about someone like him. So it'd also be doable if we allowed him to go back to warn President Fearless to stay far away from Audio from now on. What do you think, Missy? Inuerong asked Yuanwan with a smile. Third elder was dumbfounded. He thought Inuerong randomly found a woman and made her look like the president with plastic surgery, so that she could help this woman achieve some kind of goal. Now though, judging from their conversation, it didn't seem that way. Just what in the world was happening? He felt like his brain wasn't big enough for this. Inuerong, this is your family matter. How you want to handle it? What does that have to do with Iyunma? Yuanwan asked expressionlessly. That's not the case. Inuerong shook her head and stared at Yuanwan. President Fearless from Yun City is unwilling to give up her wicked intentions toward Audio. If Miss E is interested in Audio, I naturally have to help Miss E resolve this issue. It'd be an effortless victory to release this elderly man and allow him to go back and warn President Fearless. If President Fearless learns that you've taken a fancy to Audio, I believe she'd have some fear and perhaps she'd give up just like that. Wouldn't everyone be happy in that case? So it's like that. Yuanwan casually sat down on the sofa with a showy posture. Inuerong, you might have misunderstood something. Yuanwan smiled mockingly. What I like the most are challenges. If something isn't challenging, then I might lose interest in conquering it. I don't think it's necessary to warn me. So Missy, what you're saying is, since this person offended a director of the Arbitration Council, it'd be a disgrace to the Arbitration Council if we released him just like that. As for whether you want to kill him or keep him to slowly torture him, that's your personal business, Inuerong. I don't have the time to make a decision for you. Yuanwan replied casually. I see. Then I'll kill him, Inuerong said. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for me to hone your knife for you? Yuanwan was uncaring. Inuerong frowned when she saw Yuanwan's attitude. This woman was utterly unconcerned about the life or death of the Fearless Alliance's third elder. However, based on what she knew, worryless Nya wouldn't behave like this. Chapter 2343. What a good hand of hatred drawing. Auntie Qiao, take care of him, Inuerong ordered. Auntie Qiao nodded and pulled out a dagger, striding toward Third Elder. When Third Elder saw the incredibly sharp and coldly glint dagger, he shivered involuntarily. They seriously wanted his life. Elder of the Fearless Alliance, don't blame me for this. If you want to blame someone, blame your president. It was her who killed you and personally shoved you into the fire pit. Auntie Qiao said to Third Elder apathetically. Third Elder snorted. Why are you wasting your words? What haven't I experienced in my long life? Kill me already. From the side, Inuerong secretly peered at Yuanwan. However, Yi Wanwan was sitting on the sofa without a ripple in her face as though this matter didn't concern her. She had the attitude of a spectator. At this moment, Yi Wanwan was incredibly nervous. This woman wasn't serious, right? Earlier, Audio had interfered in this matter and guaranteed to her that absolutely nothing fatal would happen to Third Elder. The current situation didn't appear to correspond with Audio's promise though. It was starting to get out of control. Yin Yuerong was a lunatic and would do anything. Ignoring Audio's threat and killing Third Elder was something she could do. Yi Wanwan appeared nonchalant and calm, but inside her guard was amped to the max. If Third Elder's life was really at risk, she had to save Third Elder no matter what, even if it meant losing her disguise. Even if it would affect Yi Lingjuan's reputation. She couldn't sit back and allow something bad to happen to Third Elder in front of her. Swish. A second later, the dagger in Auntie Qiao's hand fiercely pierced toward Third Elder's neck. Yi Wanwan's heart was elevated to her throat. Yin Yuerong was serious. She wanted to kill Third Elder. However, before Yi Wanwan could act, Yin Yuerong suddenly spoke. Pause. Auntie Qiao retracted her hand instantly. Third Elder was deathly pale. He had seriously walked past the gates to the underworld just now. It scared him to death. What is it? I was just getting into the show, so why did you stop, Director Yin? Yi Wanwan glanced at Yin Yuerong. Heh. Yin Yuerong smiled faintly. I suddenly thought it'd be a waste to kill him just like this. It's better to keep him and slowly torture him. Moreover, you came here as a guest, so it'd be rather improper to kill someone in front of you, Missy. Before Yi Wanwan could say anything, Yin Yuerong turned to Auntie Qiao. Auntie Qiao, take him away. Don't let him stay here and dirty Miss Yi's eyes. Understood, madam. Auntie Qiao nodded and immediately had the young men carry Third Elder away from the living room again. Yin Yuerong, you pervert. Just wait. Our president won't spare you. She'll definitely make sure you won't have a burial place when you die and chop you into pieces and feed you to virus. Just wait. I can't wait to see how you'll die. Third Elder's screams were unceasing. Yi Wanwan's lip twitched. Did he have to draw hatred for her like this? She never said she wanted to chop Yin Yuerong into pieces, right? This was Audio's real mother after all. What if Audio's relationship with his mother improved later? Would she lose this last path of retreat? Although she might be in a tit-for-tat struggle with Yin Yuerong right now, it was as Yi Yunma, not worryless Nya. Chapter 2344. Miscalculated one thing. I've embarrassed myself, Miss Yi. Yin Yuerong said with a cordial smile. If Director Yin doesn't need anything else, I'll be leaving now. Yi Wanwan then stood up, preparing to leave. Yin Yuerong called out. Miss Yi, it's still early, so there's no need to rush. Actually, I asked Miss Yi to come today regarding one more matter. Yi Wanwan paused and glanced back at Yin Yuerong. May I ask what else you have to say, Director Yin? I know that Miss Yi studied at MDFF Academy. Coincidentally, I also have another guest here who studied at MDFF Academy. Everyone in MDFF Academy must know a famous figure like Miss Yi. She greatly admires you, Miss Yi. So how about you see each other since you're here, Miss Yi? Yin Yuerong proposed. Oh, Yi Wanwan indifferently looked at Yin Yuerong. But I'm not that interested. Yin Yuerong didn't allow Yi Wanwan to say anything more and gave Auntie Qiao a look. Auntie Qiao understood and left. Within a minute, a fashionably dressed young woman followed Auntie Qiao inside. Director Yin. The girl greeted Yin Yuerong. Hetli Yuerong, you studied at MDFF Academy, so you should know the daughter of our Independent State Arbitration Council's president, Yi Yunma, right? Yin Yuerong asked the girl. The girl, Li Yuerong, nodded. Director Yin, Senior Yi Yunma, is famous at MDFF Academy, so of course I know her. I've even seen her several times. That's great. Coincidentally, Miss Yi Yunma was visiting me today, and you're considered Miss Yi's junior, so let's share a meal together, Yi Yunma said. Senior Yi Yunma? The girl's expression changed. She asked, but Director Yin, where's Senior Yi Yunma? Why don't I see her? Don't see her. Yin Yuerong glanced at Yi Wanwan. Don't tell me you don't see a giant living person. Her. The girl was surprised. Director Yin. I've never met this woman before. Are you saying she's Senior Iyunma? Oh, she isn't. In Yuerong asked. The girl vehemently shook her head. Of course she isn't Senior Iyunma, Director In. Senior Iyunma might not know me, but I know her. I've never seen this woman before, so she definitely isn't Senior Iyunma. Are you sure? In Yuerong looked suspicious. Yes, Director. I'm certain she absolutely isn't Iyunma. The girl looked certain. Yi Wanwan's lip curled up with an inexplicable smile. It appeared In Yuerong still wasn't willing to give up, and prepared this final move to test her. It had to be said that In Yuerong was immensely prudent, and had prepared many backup plans. Unfortunately, this whole time, In Yuerong miscalculated one thing. In Yuerong merely thought she was impersonating Iyunma by taking over Iyunma's identity and deceiving Yilingjun. In Yuerong had no idea that a person by the name of Iyunma didn't exist in this world. Some time ago, people from the In family went to MDFF Academy to investigate Iyunma's identity, but who was Yilingjun? His reach stretched to every corner of the world, and he'd already created an identity for her at MDFF Academy, so In Yuerong definitely didn't find anything. Hence, she couldn't have found a student from MDFF Academy to test her. Chapter 2345. Play a good game with you. In other words, this girl wasn't a student from MDFF Academy. She was just someone In Yuerong was using to test her attitude. If she was really impersonating Iyunma, and ran into a student from MDFF Academy, and this student claimed she didn't know her, a flaw would be exposed regardless of how good her acting skills were. In Yuerong had made the wrong move. From start to end, In Yuerong only had one opportunity to test her, and that was to kill Third Elder. Unfortunately, In Yuerong missed that opportunity. Could it be she didn't attack, due to qualms regarding Si Yihin? When Yi Wanwan heard this girl who claimed to be a student from MDFF Academy, saying she knew Iyunma and met Iyunma at MDFF Academy before, Yi Wanwan nearly laughed out loud. Foolish child. There wasn't any Iyunma. Everything was an illusion. In Yuerong stared at Yi Wanwan in amusement. Don't you think it's strange, Miss E? Why doesn't your junior at MDFF Academy recognize you? Isn't this very interesting? When In Yuerong finished speaking, countless guards of the In family rushed into the room, making it impenetrable. Yi Wanwan looked at the guards but didn't say anything. Should I be calling you Miss E or should I perhaps call you Miss Nya? When Yi Wanwan didn't speak, In Yuerong asked with a mocking smile. The next second, Yi Wanwan gracefully stood up from the sofa. An inscrutable smile was on her face as she ignored the guards around her and slowly walked toward In Yuerong. Yi Wanwan stopped in front of In Yuerong. What? Director In likes to change people's surnames? In Yuerong wanted to say something but was cut off by a wave of Yi Wanwan's hand. Yi Wanwan's smile receded and frost covered her face. With a bone-chilling voice she spat out. In Yuerong, what game are you playing? Why don't you show your hand and lay it out on the table so that I can play a good game with you? In Yuerong furrowed her brows. In Yuerong, I accepted your invitation out of consideration for Si Yihin today, and I will make allowances for you because you're Si Yihin's mother. Yi Wanwan acted like an almighty superior. I will say one last thing to you. You absolutely shouldn't be ungrateful for the face I'm showing you. Yi Wanwan then slid past In Yuerong, brushing against her shoulder, and she uttered to the countless number of In guards, "Scram." The guard captain glanced at In Yuerong before surveying Yi Wanwan for a moment, and tactfully yielding a path. In Yuerong's expression was so dark that ink could drip, but she quickly donned a smiling expression. Miss E, I think this is all a misunderstanding. I don't care whether this is a misunderstanding or not. Remember one thing, In Yuerong. The only thing I currently care about is your son. That's all. Then Yi Wanwan sauntered out without looking back. I'm uninterested in knowing if this is a misunderstanding or what your objective is. This will be the only time. If you continue to affront me, you'll be responsible for the consequences. As Auntie Qiao watched Yi Wanwan leave the In residence, her expression turned anxious. Madam really went too far in her testing this time. After all, that woman wasn't some simple character. After Yi Wanwan left, A bone-chilling smile pervaded Yin Yuerong's face. If it wasn't for her father, Yunma would be a corpse already. Auntie Qiao made all the Yin guards withdraw before saying, I have to say that Yunma is indeed too arrogant, madam. Even President Yi wouldn't use this attitude with you, madam. Chapter 2346. The next step. When Yin Yuerong heard that, an unconcerned smile appeared on her exquisite face. I don't care about her attitude. Do you think we can determine Yunma's identity now, madam? Auntie Qiao asked. Most likely. Yin Yuerong nodded after a moment of thought. If this Yunma was truly being impersonated by worryless Nye, she wouldn't have been so calm today without exposing even a trace of emotion. Madam, is my mission completed then? The girl pretending to be a student from MDFF Academy asked as she faced Yin Yuerong. Then you can leave. Yin Yuerong waved her hand. Make her disappear permanently. Ha! The girl's expression changed. Auntie Qiao clapped her hands and summoned a guard to drag the ashen-faced girl outside. Madam, what's the next step? Auntie Qiao asked Yin Yuerong. Heh! Yin Yuerong's lips lifted with a confident smile. The balance of power within the Arbitration Council is probably about to change. What do you mean, madam? Auntie Qiao was surprised. Vice President Qin, Yin Yuerong replied. Are you saying Vice President Qin will act, madam? Auntie Qiao was pensive. Yin Yuerong calmly sat on the sofa like an elegant and poised wealthy woman. Everyone originally thought the next president of the Arbitration Council would definitely be Vice President Qin. But now it's hard to say, Yin Yuerong said with a smile. Auntie Qiao nodded. In truth, even if Yin Yuerong hadn't explained, Auntie Qiao was somewhat familiar with the Arbitration Council's current situation. In the past few years, Vice President Qin had been involved in activities that exceeded his prerogative. If he was exposed, the consequences would be inconceivable. Logically speaking, Vice President Qin's guts wouldn't be so big since he still had President Yi above him. However, Vice President Qin also thought he'd definitely become the next president of the Arbitration Council after President Yi Lingjuan's term ended, so that gave him the courage. Now though, Yunma came bursting out from nowhere and cut the ground from under Vice President Qin's feet. From Yunma's appearance at the banquet that night to Yi Lingjun announcing her as his daughter in a high-profile manner, and declaring his daughter would start working in the Arbitration Council, every sensible person knew that Yi Lingjun wanted to have his daughter, Yunma, become his successor. Although the position of president was voted on and elected by everyone, the prestige of the Yi clan and Yi Lingjun were truly too gargantuan in the 12 independent states. If Yi Lingjun was willing, the other directors definitely wouldn't vote for Vice President Qin, and would vote for Yunma instead. This way, not only would Vice President Qin be unable to fulfill his dream of becoming the president of the Arbitration Council, but it was also very likely Yunma would discover the shady dealings he conducted privately after she became the president. Madam, what do you think Vice President Qin is planning to do? Auntie Qiao asked curiously. I don't know anything about Vice President Qin's plan. Yin Yuerong smiled faintly. But if I were Vice President Qin, I would take a gamble and eliminate Yunma before anything became certain. Then, Auntie Qiao was hesitant. Then, madam, our position now is, we aren't connected to Vice President Qin in any manner. You don't need to take Yin Hung into consideration, Yin Yuerong said. Madam, then do we need to remind Yunma or perhaps lend her a hand? Auntie Qiao asked after a moment of thought. Chapter 2347. It's about to start raining, no need. Yin Yuerong sounded resolute and decisive. I'd like to see just how capable Yunma is. If she can't even overcome the obstacle of Vice President Qin, and she becomes the president of the Arbitration Council, and gets together with Audiobook in the future, who knows what mayhem she'd get herself into. At that time, even the Yin family might be impacted. You're brilliant, madam. Auntie Qiao praised her with a smile. After leaving the Yin estate and returning to her residence, Yi Wanwan was still shaken. Yi Wanwan never expected Yin Yuerong to have so many tricks up her sleeve, nearly causing her to shed her disguise. She still greatly underestimated Yin Yuerong. After all, that woman was Ajio's mother, so how could she be a normal woman? Yi Wanwan still didn't know Yin Yuerong well. Although First Elder had scouted for some information regarding Yin Yuerong, it wasn't comprehensive. She still had to think of a method to understand Yin Yuerong better, or else one day, she would be tricked by Yin Yuerong and still be clueless. That night, after Yi Wanwan and Yi Lingjun ate dinner together, she pulled a vanishing act with Yi Lingjuan's assistance and made a trip back to Yun City. She recovered her identity as Worryless Nya and intentionally appeared at the Fearless Alliance in a flashy manner. She also returned to the Nya residence many times and visited her parents while she was at it. If Yin Yuerong's scouts saw Worryless Nya with their own eyes, it should completely dissipate Yin Yuerong's suspicion toward Yi Yunma, who was far away in Tianshui City. No matter what, Yi Lingjun had helped her like this, so she couldn't easily expose herself and negatively affect Yi Lingjuan's reputation, right? Especially since Vice President Qin might appear normal on the surface, but in reality, he was eyeing them covetously already. The only pitiful part about her trip to Yun City was that Tang Tang went to Yi Shuahan's place, so she didn't see him. Since her time in Yun City was limited, she didn't linger. Several days later in the Qin residence at Tianshui City, Yin Heng glanced at the deeply glowering Qin Shiyuan and asked, Yuan, has something been on your mind recently? Qin Shiyuan's eyes icily glinted. What do you think? Let me guess. It's Yi Yunma, right? Yin Heng asked. Why did you ask if you knew? Qin Shiyuan snorted. Yi Yunma relies on the fact that she's the president's daughter and goes about with her nose in the air. She has zero regard for my father and me. I heard that she even berated Director Yin in front of everyone. Yin Heng shook his head and sighed. It can't be helped. Yi Yunma is President Yi Lingjuan's precious daughter, so she's been fated to stand high above the masses since she was born. This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Even so, I'll strike her down from the clouds and slam her into the depths of an abyss with my own hands. She'll never be reincarnated. Ever since Yi Yunma appeared, all of her brilliance and splendor was stolen by that woman. Even Si Yihan, whom she secretly admired, was successfully tackled by that bitch. What right did that woman have? Something she couldn't obtain was easily stolen by that woman. Qin Shiyuan absolutely couldn't tolerate the existence of someone like that. Yuan, you mustn't be impulsive. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan with a deep frown. You have to know that Yi Yunma is President Yi's daughter. If anything happened to her, even the weather would change over Tianshui City. Heh, the weather would change? Qin Shiyuan snorted. I want the sky to start raining. Yin Heng wanted to say something, but ended up stopping himself. Late at night, Qin Shiyuan went to Vice President Qin's study. Father, do you agree to what I said or not? Qin Shiyuan asked, looking at Vice President Qin. Chapter 2348. This risk was worth taking. What if I say no? Vice President Qin asked. If you say no, then I'd stop, but I won't spare her, Qin Shiyuan said while glowering. Go ahead then, Vice President Qin said a moment later. Joy overfilled Qin Shiyuan's face. Father, you're agreeing? Vice President Qin was quiet for another minute before looking at Qin Shiyuan. Remember, you mustn't allow anyone to gain leverage against you while doing this. You should think carefully about who you should ask to do it. I understand, Father. Qin Shiyuan nodded. After Qin Shiyuan left the study, Vice President Qin's expression chilled instantly. Yi Yunma must disappear permanently. Even if Yi Yunma died and the president found him the most likely suspect, no one could do anything to him as long as there wasn't proof. At that time, the directors he bribed would cast their votes for the next president for him. If Yi Yunma didn't die, the position of president would definitely fall into Yi Yunma's hands next term. At that time, if Yi Yunma discovered those shady dealings of his, this risk was worth taking. The next morning, Qin Shiyuan called Yin Heng to her room. Yin Heng, there's something I need you to do. Can you do it? Qin Shiyuan softly asked as she half leaned into Yin Heng's arms. Yin Heng embraced her with a smile. Yuan, I traversed through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos. Eliminate Yi Yunma, Qin Shiyuan said. Yin Heng froze, his expression changing drastically. I didn't miss here, right? She wants me to eliminate Yunma. This was harder than traversing through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos. Yuan. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan. Yunma is the president's daughter. If anything happens to Yunma, the biggest suspects would be the Qin family and Vice President Qin. This is kindling a fire on yourself. It's no trifling matter. What? Didn't you say you'd traverse through a mountain of swords and a sea of infernos? You're scared this easily? Qin Shiyuan snorted. I'm not scared. I just think doing this isn't worth it. Yin Heng shook his head. Yin Heng, you're a smart person, so you should know what would happen if Yunma doesn't die without me telling you. Qin Shiyuan said. Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan with confusion. Yuan, what do you mean? Hey Yin Heng, it appears I've overestimated you and you aren't as clever as I thought you were. No wonder you've always been beneath Si Yihan. Even though Si Yihan left for many years, he's still someone you could never surpass. Qin Shiyuan glanced at Yin Heng. At the mention of Si Yihan, a dark cloud appeared in Yin Heng's eyes. If Yunma doesn't die, the position of the Arbitration Council president next term would definitely belong to Yunma. And you should have heard that Yunma is entangled with Si Yihan now. If we allowed Yunma to become the president of the Arbitration Council, have you thought about what would happen to Si Yihan's position? Qin Shiyuan asked mockingly. This, Yin Heng frowned deeply. Moreover, I believe that with Yunma's status, Director Yin would enthusiastically push the two of them together. Your existence would become absolutely worthless to every person, Qin Shiyuan added. In truth, Qin Shiyuan was well aware of what this man before her cared about and wanted to obtain. She had him completely within her grasp. Yin Heng also knew what Qin Shiyuan was saying, but the risk of killing Yunma was truly too great. So great that a minuscule error couldn't be permitted or else he'd be beyond redemption. Chapter 2349. Ninth brother isn't managing you? Qin Shiyuan added. Of course if you're unwilling, that's fine too. After all, my father will still remain as vice president while you, Yin Heng, will completely lose everything and become penniless. Think about it. Then Qin Shiyuan turned to leave. Yuan, tell me, how do we eliminate Yunma? What detailed plan do you have? Yin Heng looked at Qin Shiyuan. The corners of Qin Shiyuan's mouth turned up, and she immediately turned around and leaned into Yin Heng's arms again. It's very simple actually. You should know about the mercenary troop, Fengsha, right? Qin Shiyuan asked with a smile. Of course I do. They're the most mysterious mercenary group in the 12 independent states. Yin Heng nodded. I heard you know the head of Fengsha. Qin Shiyuan stared at Yin Heng. That's right, Yin Heng said. I do know him, but we aren't close friends. That's good. The mercenary organization, Fengsha, is very principled. You can contact the leader of Fengsha and have him personally take care of Yunma. As for the price, you don't need to worry about that. I'll pay whatever he wants, Qin Shiyuan said. The mercenary group Fengsha isn't easy to hire. I'll try my best, but I doubt the price they want will be cheap. Yin Heng was contemplative. Go and try. Qin Shiyuan smiled faintly, then took advantage of Yin Heng's inattention and pressed a light kiss on his lips. Qin Shiyuan sneered inwardly. Whether Yunma died or didn't die, the matter couldn't be traced back to the Qin family. The one who hired Fengsha mercenary group would be Yin Heng, so that'd be the Yin family's business. Even if Yin Heng was discovered in the end and relentlessly latched onto the Qin family, no one could do anything to the Qin family as long as they didn't admit it. That night, Yuan secretly avoided Si Yihan and called Lin Ke to meet with her. In the luxurious but simple living room, Lin Ke gulped and nervously peered at the girl sitting on the sofa. He cautiously called, Ninth sister? Yuan grinned and said, Good boy foolish Ke, my god. Lin Ke was simply horrified. Ninth sister, it really is you. Aren't you too freaking gutsy? What if you're discovered? Do you want to die? Yuan rolled her eyes at him. Don't waste time. I asked you to come over for proper business. What proper business could be more important than this? You actually impersonated the president's daughter. What's going on with ninth brother? Why isn't ninth brother managing you? Yi Wanwan rested her chin on her hand and languidly asked, "What do you think?" Lin Ke despairingly said, "I think he probably wouldn't. And he'd help her conceal it from everyone." He suddenly freaking understood. Ninth brother most likely figured it out already. Yet he didn't say anything and was cooperating with her act. As if her acting wasn't enough, his acting skills were through the roof. "Well then that's that. What are you prattling on about?" "Fine. Ninth sister. Why did you call me out here so late at night? It'd be bad if ninth brother found out." As Lin Ke spoke, he pulled his clothes close together. "Bad your ass. I have something to ask you, so tell me the truth." Yi Wanwan threatened, baring her teeth. Chapter 2350. Too shameless. Lin Ke had an ominous feeling. "What do you want to ask?" Yi Wanwan hummed. "It's about Inuerong." At the sound of Inuerong's name, Lin Ke acted like he heard a ghost speak and immediately shook his head like a rattledrum. "I don't know anything. I don't know anything." "Oh." Yi Wanwan raised her brows. TSK, if your ninth brother finds out you came running to my place in the middle of the night, what do you think he'd think?" Lin Ke was stupefied. "Damn. Didn't you call me over here?" Yi Wanwan had an innocent expression. "I didn't. It was clearly you who came over yourself." Lin Ke's eyes shot open. "You? What about me?" "Lin Ke, you're too shameless." Lin had no choice but to admit defeat, his head drooping. "What do you want to know about her?" Yi Wanwan thought about it. "You can tell me everything you know. For example, Inuerong and Ajio's relationship." Lin Ke sighed and said, "Well, Auntie Rong, how should I describe her? Her sense of control is just too twisted, and she won't permit anything related to ninth brother to escape her realm of control. Since he was young, as long as there was anything around ninth brother that was out of her control, whether it was a person or object, even a small bird, nothing would be spared. If ninth brother committed the slightest mistake, he would receive extremely severe punishment. An example of the slightest mistake could be eating an extra mouthful of rice or mispronouncing one word wrong. Can you dare to imagine how she'd make a 3-year-old child kneel in the snow in the middle of winter? When we were young, ninth brother and I rescued an injured white tiger, and my ninth brother liked that little white tiger a lot and would go play with it every day. In the end, Auntie Rome killed that little white tiger in front of ninth brother." When Yi Wanwan heard this, she frowned lightly, Great White popping up in her mind. After she recovered her memories, she realized that it was she who rescued Great White. Back when she was with Si Yihan, she encountered an injured young white tiger in the wild and felt bad for him, so she wanted to save him and bring him back. However, Si Yihan was not only unmoved but also stopped her from saving the tiger. Because of this, she even got into an argument with Si Yihan and ignored him for a long while. Thinking about it now, Si Yihan was probably so resistant and unwilling to rescue Great White because of that incident when he was young. No wonder Si Yihan developed such an antisocial and apathetic personality. Having lived under Inuerong's impact and control for so long, he didn't dare to allow any person or being to get close to him. Because in his subconscious mind he believed that he'd lose everything he possessed and everything he was close to would be destroyed. As time passed, no one dared to approach him, and he was the only one left in his world. Lin Ke mumbled quietly. "Do you finally know why ninth brother developed such a distorted personality? If it were anyone else, I wager they would have been forced into madness already. However, what caused Inuerong to become like this?" Yi Wanwan was uncomprehending. Sigh, probably because she couldn't obtain what she wanted and became trapped with that demon. Lin Ke said with a sigh. "Because of Ajio's father?" Yi Wanwan asked. Basically. Lin Ke provided a simple explanation. In truth, when Auntie Rong was young, her personality wasn't like this. Auntie Rong was the sage Gu doctor's youngest, most favored disciple, and was very talented in martial arts too. Plus, with her beautiful looks, many men pursued her. Of course, I heard all of this from my elders, so I only know the story roughly. Continue. Chapter 2351. Hidden Past. Lin Ke continued. As for ninth brother's father, Si Huaizhang, you should know that according to the rules, many people whose talents didn't meet the standards were evicted from the independent state, and many of these people created a clan and amassed power in China. They devoted their efforts to nurturing their children with the hope that they could return to the independent state one day. Si Huaizhang was one of those descendants who met the standards and was brought back to the independent state. He returned to the ancient Si clan and became very valued too. He and Auntie Rong met during a mission once, and Auntie Rong fell in love with him at first sight. She ignored all of the other outstanding pursuers wooing her, and placed her heart and soul on Si Huaizhang. Unfortunately, it was unrequited. Ninth brother's father fell in love with a girl from China, and even forsook the rare opportunity of returning to the independent state for that girl. He abandoned his clan and fled back to China, eloping with that Chinese girl. Yuanwan was astonished when she heard this. This hidden past was lost in the mists of antiquity, and no one dared to mention it due to Yin Yuerong's looming intimidation. So First Elder and the others hadn't discovered this. If it weren't for Lin Ke, she really wouldn't know all of this. Yuanwan asked. And then? Lin Ke sighed. And then you should know how severe the independent state's laws are, so how could the ancient Si clan tolerate something like this? In order to avoid having their clan implicated, they kept hunting Si Huaizhang. In the end, it was Auntie Rong who rescued Si Huaizhang and left the independent state for him. Lin Ke paused and continued. Later, that Chinese girl didn't want to live in fear and trepidation anymore, so she left Si Huaizhang and got married to someone else. Because Si Huaizhang violated the laws of the independent state, he received extremely severe punishments and even dragged down his clan and parents. In the end, because of Si Huaizhang's mother's relentless imploring and persuasion, Si Huaizhang had to marry Auntie Rong. Auntie Rong's master possessed a very prestigious reputation in the independent state back then and pleaded for leniency on their behalf, so the matter was finally resolved. However, from then on, Si Huaizhang and Auntie Rong weren't allowed to return to the independent state. It was no wonder that back in China, grandmother kept saying she regretted letting Audio's parents get together. It was because of this. After Yuanwan listened to this, she truly didn't know what to say. Wasn't Yin Yuerong's sacrifice too great? For a man who didn't love her, she basically abandoned everything she possessed. A woman gave so much for him, but are you saying that Si Huaizhang wasn't touched in the slightest? Yuanwan couldn't figure out how Si Huaizhang could fool around with so many women later, and sire so many children. Lin Ke shrugged. I heard that their relationship after getting married was okay, and they managed the Si clan in China rather well. However, later on, something melodramatic happened. Si Huaizhang's sweetheart probably didn't have a good life after getting married, so she sought out Si Huaizhang. Si Huaizhang couldn't control himself, and the two of them got together again. The corner of Yuanwan's lips twitched. Damn. That scummy? Thank goodness Audio didn't inherit this trait from his father. Yuanwan couldn't help but ask, didn't Yin Yuerong explode with anger? Lin Ke immediately replied. How could she not be angry? Regardless of how much Auntie Rong liked Si Huaizhang and followed his wishes for everything, she couldn't tolerate this kind of matter. After all, what she cared about the most was Si Huaizhang's first love. So afterward, Auntie Rong wrecked the company that woman and her husband opened in a fit of anger. Chapter 2352. She probably has issues with her EQ. When Yuanwan heard this, her expression was indescribable. Is there a problem with Yin Yuerong's EQ? By doing that, wasn't she shoving Si Huaizhang into that woman's arms? Lin Ke immediately praised her. You're too wise, ninth sister. That was exactly it. After that woman declared bankruptcy, she got divorced from her husband, and Si Huaizhang felt very sorry for her, so he started maintaining a relationship with her on the outside. Yuanwan, I knew it. Lin Ke said. What happened after was even more melodramatic. That woman died from a car accident. As she died? Then it must have been tragic for Yin Yuerong. Regardless of whether that woman's car accident was intentional or accidental, Si Huaizhang must have blamed it on Yin Yuerong. Lin Ke slapped his thigh and exclaimed, You're really clever again, ninth sister. Si Huizhang got into a terrible argument with Yin Yuerong and never went home again. He fooled around outside every day, and Yin Yuerong's personality became increasingly irritable. Yuanwan sighed. She didn't expect to hear such a theatrical story. That's rather melodramatic. Lin Ke pondered. I must say that Auntie Rong is seriously stubborn though. She still didn't give up and held hope toward Si Huizhang and wouldn't divorce him. She even conjured a plan to carry ninth brother, and attempted to use this child to draw Si Huizhang back. Well, you can probably guess the final outcome. In the end, Yin Yuerong probably became truly downhearted, and placed all of her hopes on ninth brother. If ninth brother's aptitude met the standards, she would be able to return to the independent state. Yi Wanwan finally understood why Si Yihan had this kind of relationship with his mother. To Yin Yuerong, Si Yihan symbolized her failed romantic relationship and represented despair and betrayal. She probably didn't feel any attachment toward Si Yihan. Not only that, but she also probably resented Si Yihan for being unable to draw Si Huizhang back to her. Yin Yuerong solely treated Audiobook as a tool for returning to the independent state and fighting for power. After discovering he was escaping her control, she immediately found a substitute, Yin Heng. Yi Wanwan originally debated whether to think of a method to salvage this relationship between mother and son. Looking at it now though, Rome wasn't built in a day, and even if the Heavenly King himself came, he wouldn't be able to make these two people reconcile or change Yin Yuerong. In all fairness, if she had experienced this, she absolutely couldn't forgive the other person or dispel her ill feelings. However, no matter what, a person still shouldn't take out all their pain on a child, right? But of course she wasn't Yin Yuerong. Yi Wanwan couldn't help but comment. What should I say? With Yin Yuerong's figure and looks, she must have been gorgeous and unparalleled when she was young, right? Exactly. Even my dad was secretly in love with Auntie Rong back then. Plus, I saw a photo of that Chinese woman, and her looks aren't 1/100th of Auntie Rong's. Yi Wanwan immediately asked. So then if Yin Yuerong was beautiful, had good looks and possessed such favored terms, how did she get this outcome with such a good hand of cards? If it were me, I would have definitely grasped Si Huizhang deftly tight in my hands the first time I saw him. That Chinese woman wouldn't be able to stick a finger into the relationship. Lin Ke. Ninth sister, your point of focus. Why is it so distorted? Am I wrong? There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. As the two of them conversed, Yi Wanwan's phone started ringing. It was baby Tang Tang calling. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.